From the nation's capital, this is the Fly Fishing Consultant Podcast with your host, Rob Snowhite.
Thank you for downloading the Fly Fishing Consultant Podcast. I am your host, Rob Snowhite. This is Series 1, Episode 89. I head out to Colorado to visit my in-laws, meet up with my buddy Tom and Justin, another one of my fishing buddies, and we fish up and down the Front Range and all throughout the Colorado Rockies. You're going to find out why I choose to fish streamers in certain stretches of water versus standing in one spot and nymphing all day. My method is a couple of casts. If you don't get a bite, you move on. This podcast is brought to you by Douglas Outdoors, a leading industry engineering and design team that have gotten together with a legendary conservation family, bringing you a fresh approach to the building of fishing rods and reels. Douglas Outdoors did not evolve from a pre-existing enterprise. It is an entirely new initiative, bringing together the most experienced practitioners to find a fresh legacy of new tackle that pushes both science and practice of angling. Douglas Outdoors will apply the same diligence and innovation to all its enterprises. Rod and reel design, customer service, and their merchandising programs will bring you an improved product and partner to the water and to the fishing business. Please visit douglasoutdoors.com for more information. I hope you enjoy this podcast. I thought this would just be a little random fishing trip out west. It turned out to be some of the best fishing I have experienced in my entire life. I can't wait in the next 15 years to move out there for good. Our Pixie just started kindergarten the other day. We're not moving until she graduates from high school. At least that is the plan. Sit back, relax. This is a hodgepodge of interviews and me talking, and it wouldn't be my podcast if it wasn't completely random in parts. Enjoy this one. Jason Reef of Freestone Media, thank you so much for all the work you do putting these podcasts together. I hope to see you up on the Salmon River in just a few months. All right, everybody, sit back, turn up your headphones, and enjoy this one. Greetings from Breckenridge, Colorado. You're going to have to excuse my shortness of breath. I am about 9,000 feet higher than normal. And if you know what happened last time up here, my body and oxygen don't do well. It was an uneventful flight out here, except my daughter took my phone for the second leg from... Ooh, there goes a trout rising. From... Where did we fly into? Chicago, Midway? So I had nothing to look at or listen to. So I just kind of sat there for the 2.5 hour ride from Chicago. Father-in-law Yuri picked us up at the airport, and we got into town fairly easily. I drank about 4/5 of a gallon of spring water to get myself hydrated. And I'm now walking along the Blue River. We got to the condo, and I threw everything in the corner, grabbed a long sleeve shirt, my backpack, and I went for a walk around town, seeing how things have changed. It's actually been 4 years since I've been here. A lot of new construction. I went down to Breckenridge Outfitters, and Ned is no longer the owner. That's how long it's been. So talked to the guys there. Wanted to buy some time material, but they don't have any anymore. Not that I need to buy any, I just like to buy time material. Got my license and decided to walk around and found my way over to a drop-off on the Blue near the shop at the bridge, and people are watching trout rising. Well, I could have gone tourist walking around town, but I opted to come down here and walk the whole Blue River, not realizing there'd be fish everywhere at this hour of the day, and they'd be rising to dry flies. We have yellow sallies, and there are hoppers, there are ants, there's midges, and blue-winged olives coming off. And every now and then, when you're walking along the river, you will find a nice deep pool and see fish coming up to eat. It looks like it's raining up mountain. It's beautiful out. It's probably 68 degrees, no humidity, slight breeze. Hopefully it's not being picked up on the DAT. And I'm walking along this man-made, man-altered stream down here. It has been trying to find the right term, how they've manipulated the stream for fishing. So big plunge pools, lots of boulders, drop-offs, corners, and you'll find fish in the plunge pools and at the tail of the pools and other places. You just have to look for yourself. So I stopped, watched one angler for a bit, throwing a midge. He said there was a 16-incher in the hole. I should come down and look. And after about 2 minutes, about an 18-inch rainbow slid out. So I know what I'm doing tomorrow after I get up and walk down to Daylight Donuts for breakfast. Got to get the sausage rolls and a burrito. I am going to most likely have to get my 4-weight and come back. I don't know where my 6-weight spool is. It's got the clear Cortland floating line on it. It's hard to walk here. Probably done about a mile, but at least it's downhill. I don't know how I'm getting back uphill. And I'm going to come back with some double bacon flies with the 6-weight if I have it. If not, single bacons on the 4-weight. And I put brand new Orvis Hydros floating line on that I got at a guide rendezvous years ago that's just been sitting in my closet. I spooled that up on an old green CFO reel. I've got a Sage 5-piece rod that actually fit diagonal in my luggage, made it easier to pack. And then I brought the 6 and my short 8-weight with me on my backpack. Mysterious box of flies, mostly streamers, hoppers, ants, some tungsten HNICs, some beaded HNICs on heavy wet nymph hooks. I'm walking along here. Beautiful wildflowers, asteraceae, snapdragons, coreopsis. There's some clovers, some white inflorescences that look like Queen Anne's lace. It's just good to be here in our home away from home. Breckenridge is it's been our second home now for 11 years. I just don't get back as often as I'd like to. My big plans are getting chicken fried steak at Fatty's on Monday, getting breakfast at Daylight, and chicken fingers at Burke and Riley's. There really is no real plan for this vacation other than I got time with Justin and Tom on Thursday, and I think just Justin on Friday. Can only get the car for one day, so we're going to have to figure out how to shuffle me back and forth between Denver with friends. I'm halfway to where I used to live in my car out here. There's been a lot of construction since I was here last. And there's a lot of pine trees that look like they've been cut down, the ones that were killed by the pine borer. I'm going to hopefully stop at some fly shops, get some randos along the stream, maybe even get Yuri to do some podcasting. I know we're going to get Justin. Tom's a little shy, but we'll try and coax him. And I'm also going to try and meet up with a possible cousin of mine that I didn't know about until I saw an article in the Denver Post, Breckenridge's, Colorado's best fishing guide. What the heck is this thing? Random car parts I just found in a box. So AJ is a bartender in Denver, and we may have the same great-grandfather. Not quite sure of that, but I just called the restaurant. He's at a different location. He's supposed to give me a call back, or we'll try and stop in tomorrow. I'm also going to try and get a big burrito out here. I don't know what else, but I'm going to have fun. You're going to have fun listening. We're going to see where this goes, because remember, like Indiana Jones, I make this up as I go. All right, let's talk about Wednesday in Colorado. So I wake up on the sofa. It's pretty cold, and the entire night, my in-laws, Schnauzer Jazzy, had been jumping on me. There were several times throughout the night where I had to get up and fence off the couch. And every time I would fence it off, that damn dog would figure out a way to get through, over, and around it. So when I wake up in the morning and people are coming out to get coffee, they're like, what the heck is going on? Why do you have pillows and chairs and coffee tables and newspapers and maps and magazines dangling from everything surrounding the couch? Well, that was to keep the dog off, because every time she'd jump on me, she would walk around, and it just felt like hamsters jumping up and down on me. So I had to kick Jazzy off. We wake up, and there is snow on the mountains in Breck. It was definitely a cold night. We wake up, and we need to go pick up Uncle Mike at the airport in Denver. His flight leaves at 4, so the wife and I decide, let's spend our day in Denver. We really haven't done that in, I couldn't tell you, maybe since before we were married, since we got married. So it's been a long time since we've just had a day to drive around Denver. So we take my father-in-law's very slow car, and we start driving up to Independence Pass. Not Independence Pass, Eisenhower Tunnel. It's the altitude that'll get you. And all the peaks are covered in snow. And the plan is, I'm going to stay at Tom's house on Wednesday night. We're going to get up. We're going to go fish. Carp Thursday. And then we're going to do trout Friday, both with Justin. So I've got all my gear in the car. And we get into Denver, I don't know, probably around 10:30. And the first thing I want to do is go visit Charlie's Fly Box. You've heard Charlie on the Itinerant Angler podcast. You heard Jay talk about him, Jay Zimmerman, the author, the fly tyer, the shop employee at Charlie's Fly Box, on my podcast to say that Charlie is the best fly tying instructor you will ever come across. I want to go to that shop. That's my goal for the day. So we drive up to Arvada, which I get the pronunciation correct. And on the way to the store, I said, we got to stop at a liquor shop. I need a bottle of wine. If you remember back to that podcast, I told Jay, if I ever come into the shop, I'll bring you something to drink. I said, what do you drink? Jay said, red wine. So I had the wife pick out a bottle of not too expensive red. Knowing her taste, it was probably awesome. I just said, here's my card. Go buy Jay something nice. So we get up to Arvada. We park right in front of the shop, and we go in, and there's Jay and two guys just sitting at a table. And Charlie, if you're listening, they were being productive. They weren't just sitting there doing nothing. The first thing I noticed was this shop is immaculate. It might be one of the nicest fly shops I have ever been in. If you wanted to do a photo shoot that day, that store was ready. There was no prep needed. So I introduced myself to Jay in person and gave him the red wine. He was very happy. He wanted to drink it right then and there. And one of the gentlemen in the shop recognized my voice from the podcast. I didn't get your name and was a little overwhelmed with the shop to give you a big shout out and thanks. I wanted to get Jay, sit down and do some interviewing, but just really wasn't the place and time. I wanted to get the whole story of the shop, so we'll do that next time. Maybe I can get Charlie on next time I'm in town. So I walk around, and the fly tying section goes from one wall, the back wall, and then it goes to the left about 20 feet, and then it turns, and it goes along another wall, and it makes a right, and that wall's covered, and then it makes a left, and that wall's covered, and then it makes another left. So the entire one side of this store is nothing but tying material. They have the most in-depth collection of tying threads I have ever seen. It was overwhelming, the amount of tying materials in that store. And then I go over and look at the wires for Copper Johns and Jumbo Johns, and I'm just in awe. And then the one thing is, the colors didn't match. So blue, the color I really wanted, only came in small. I wanted medium. And there were a couple others. I ended up picking out like pinks and blues and reds and some other ones. There wasn't really a whole lot tying material wise that I needed. So I got a couple of things. I got to see one of the largest selection of local flies I've ever seen. I tried taking pictures of them. It doesn't do justice. I mean, you got to go in there with a magnifying glass and go through Charlie's patterns. Charlie's Fly Box definitely has one of the most in-depth amount of flies I've ever seen. And these bins with midges, I mean, it had like 200 midges each. I mean, the place was loaded. If there was going to be an apocalypse and you needed to fish to catch fish for the rest of your life, that's the store you'd want to hit up before the zombies came, because you could load up on enough materials and tying material to last you the rest of your life. Great amount of books, hardware, soft goods, Jay's books, Charlie's books, tools, gadgets, rods, posters. It just went on. And I just sent the wife walking around Arvada. So I thank Jay, I buy my stuff. I get a couple of little fly boxes, the little plastic ones, because I want to collect some poppy seeds from in Breckenridge to plant in my garden here. They're not local to Breckenridge, so it's not like I am transporting an invasive species across lines. They're probably the same ones I can get here at Home Depot, but it's more fun when you can bring them back. I was just worried I would get busted at the airport for bringing plant matter back, if you know what I'm saying. And from there, I walk out of the shop, and I'm walking along, and all of a sudden, I see the wife in a golf cart with some dude. I'm like, what the heck is going on? She waves me over, and as you'll hear, we went around on this little Old Town Arvada golf cart, getting a tour of the city, or town.
Old Town Arvada.
All right, so we're in, what are we driving in right now?
We're in the Old Town Shuttle. The Old Town Shuttle bus.
And we're in Old Town Arvada?
Old Town Arvada, yes.
All right. And I just randomly saw the wife riding shotgun, so I jumped in. Where are we headed right now? And how old is Arvada? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
It was, yes, it's Arvada, like Nevada, like the state of Nevada. So it's Arvada. It was formed in the late 1800s. And so, in fact, it's celebrating its 100th and something birthday today.
Wow. Any celebrations going on?
This week, I think, yes. No, not this year. So I'm showing her all the restaurants in town, and this is the new light rail station that's going to open up in October.
I just stopped in here over at Charlie's Fly Box.
People come from miles around to go to that place.
Yeah, that was impressive. I'll talk about that later. So it seems like there's a lot of non-chains up here. That's all.
There's no chain. I mean, down below we have Costco and Sam's and Home Depots and all that. But up here, mostly these are all mom and pops.
Any stores that we should stop in that are must-see?
Well, I said, you know, there were some nice women's boutiques back there. The restaurants, it's really the kind of food you want. But these two coming up here are good restaurants for just casual food. Kind of unique place you probably do want to stop in and see is the original schoolhouse for Arvada. is coming up right here where these umbrellas are. If you see up there at the top, it was 1882, and that's the original one-room schoolhouse. And this restaurant came in here and redid the bar, so you got to go and look at the bar because it's like an old schoolhouse in there. The seats are old bleachers. The bar's made out of pencils. It's kind of a neat place. So.
Get some ideas from my brother-in-law. He moved into an old school in California.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, go in there. They did a nice job.
And then the surplus store, I want to stop in there again. Yeah. That's a neat one. What's our elevation here?
You're at about 5,400.
Where's our coffee place near here?
There's one right back there.
On the street? Okay, thanks.
Right over there on the other side of the street.
Thanks.
So we're about 5,000 feet above home, right, for us.
Yeah. That's a great store. That's a good. Arvada Tavern's a good place to eat dinner, not lunch. I was telling her that's a good German bakery right there. They're really good.
That's a bond. Is this the busy season? Summertime?
Yeah, summertime more. But they have festivals all year round here. Like Christmas, they have festivals and carriage rides and that sort of thing. No, it's a message.
So are you just standing on the corner and he picked you up?
I ran him down.
Okay.
Yeah, all we do, we just drive around, people wave at us to call us down, and we take people down below to...
Is this lady getting in?
No.
No. So this is the old town, the new town is down below the hill?
Well, it's where, you got the I-70, and then you got the big boxes down there.
Right.
And they do call that new town, and this is old town.
It's like a cookie cutter of every other place in America.
Yeah. And then, of course, this part, as I was telling her, more west of here is all the little homes and everything, next 5 blocks. And then the rest of the town is just like any other town in the Denver metro area. All right, so I'll let you guys off over here.
Fantastic. And your name again was?
It's Timothy.
All right, if you come up, wave down Timothy. Like the plant?
Huh?
Timothy like the flower?
No, like Timothy Leary.
Okay, here we go. All right.
You guys probably know who he is.
Yeah. And we drive by the schoolhouse, and the guy's like, if you're going to go anywhere, you got to go here. So we get off, we go in the military surplus store just to look around, see if there's anything I could use. I like my work pants. So I got a pair of Carhartts, I don't know, 5 years ago. Put a hole in the knee recently. I don't think there's a pair of work pants that I can wear that I am not going to absolutely destroy. It's just something about my left knee goes through each one. So we go to the schoolhouse, and it's the original school from Old Town Arvada. We go in, the whole thing's school themed. The tables in the bar area are actual periodic tables. You'll have, like, the noble gases will be one table, and, like, heavy metals another. And pictures of all this will be on the blog, because when the kid gets back to school, I'm going to have time to blog and knock out custom fly orders faster, clean things, and hopefully write and record more podcasts. So we're in the schoolhouse, and I have to get myself an Odell's on tap. And we get some fries with the garlic aioli, and we go through their whiskey list of 1,800 plus, I think it's 1,856 different whiskeys that the schoolhouse has. We sample a couple other beers. We decide we're only going to have 1 pint each because we've got a full day ahead of us. And the bar is made out of card catalogs. And if you're a kid, you don't know what I'm talking about. So it's card catalogs, and then on top of that, the bar is clear, and it's made of like 10,000 pencils, and the chandeliers are old school tables. This is really cool. The business cards for the employees have all their 4th grade pictures on them. The manager's office is the principal's office. The upstairs bar is an actual library with books and National Geographics. And it was awesome. One of my favorite bars I've been to. Really super friendly wait staff. And from there, we drive to the Source in Denver. It's near the Purina factory, near the Coliseum. Probably near some good carp fishing. I didn't say that. On the South Platte. And we go in, we walk around. My wife goes to the liquor store, and we're just looking at the local beers and liquors, and my wife gets into a whole conversation about Venetian spritzes. Or is either Venetian spritzes or what's the other one that she drinks with that nasty bitter beverage? Campari, Negronis. So I guess there's like a Negroni festival, and there's bumper stickers in the store that say 1-1-1, which is the ratio of how you make them, and my wife is just all excited. Now the bar next to there only served sour beers. Wasn't interested in that. The food didn't do it for us. It's like an old, I guess, like train building that's turned into a bunch of smaller shops, and each shop is different food, beer, wines, etc. We get a loaf of bread at this bakery, and the bread just looks ridiculous. And then we go next door to, oh man, I forget the place, the restaurant we went to. But they had, my wife said, the best BLT she's ever had in her life. I had a burger and fries, and I wanted another Odell's. They didn't have it, so I got a cherry ale made from raspberry ale. It was like drinking just pure fermented raspberry liquid. It was so good. With the burger, it was awesome. And the whole time, I'm trying to text Justin, Facebook him, email him to find out what the deal is, because now on the drive-in, we learned that Tom can't fish on Thursday. So am I going to drive back? Because now the plan was I was going to have the car for at least 2 days or 1 day to go fishing. Now I got it for 0. So I finally get a hold of Justin's wife, Talia, and I'm like, hey, I'm in Denver. My wife's got to get to the airport in a couple hours. By now it's around 1:30, and she's got to leave around 3 to get to the airport. So we figure out, I'm going to go crash at Justin's. How to get there? Well, he's in a meeting, and Talia's at work, so neither of them can drive up to get me. So I figure out through Googling I can take a bus. It is the Mustang bus, I think. Bustang. It's a play on words. And the wife drops me off at the bus stop in downtown. Beautiful Union Station. It's right next to Coors Field. And it turns out I can just get my ticket on the bus. I don't know how much it's going to cost. So I just hang out for an hour and a half. I wanted to do this podcast recording there, but I couldn't because everyone would have just stared at me. So I sit there on the floor, go through some emails, listen to some podcasts, and just people watch. And the people watching there was awesome. There were some weird dudes. There was a guy with bleach blonde hair and a flat-billed hat in a tiger print velvet dashiki that went past his waist with no shirt on it. It was more like a poncho with a dog and a sign that said, give me $1 or I'll vote for Trump. And just weird people coming and going. A lot of people on bikes. Very outdoorsy people. Then the bus shows up. It's like a 3:30 bus. I get on, and it's $12. I'm like, sweet. I only have 20s. He's like, well, I can't give you any change back. Here's an $8 voucher for the next time you take the bus. I'm like, all right. So I get on the bus, and I've got about 30 minutes of sitting by myself. I was on the left side. I should have done the right side so I could look at the view. And I'm pretty beat. It's actually more like 6 o'clock for me now. I start falling asleep, listening to podcasts, kind of laughing out loud. And then this woman gets on, and she sits next to me, and she starts falling asleep, and she starts getting the nap jerks. And I'm worried that and she's swaying to the left, and she's swaying to the right, and popping her head back. And I'm nervous that she's going to fall with her face in my lap, and someone's going to look over, and it's going to look like something dirty. And honestly, when I got on the bus, I wasn't sure if it was going to be like Forrest Gump, because I'm not from Denver, and I don't know if people are going to be like, seat's taken. But everyone was cool, and she got off eventually. There were like 7 stops, so it took 2+ hours just to drive down there for maybe like 60 to 80 miles. I don't know. The bus drops me off in Colorado Springs. I call Justin. He's like, I'll be there in 15 minutes. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the guy in the dashiki hanging out with some panhandlers who looked like they were tweaking on something. And then this dude crosses the street, starts talking to them, comes up to me. He's pushing a bike with a backpack. He offers to sell me this pristine mountain bike for 10 and the backpack, like a nice day pack, for 3. And ding, ding, ding. I'm like, this is stolen. This guy's trying to get some meth. Now, I know the weed is legal out there, but it seems like there's more tweakers than stoners walking around. And I ended up hanging out with these panhandlers and watching hummingbirds feeding along the intersection. Beautiful weather. It's late afternoon. Justin picks me up. No more whatever he used to drive. He's got this ridiculous white 4-door pickup truck. And we start driving up to Manitou Springs where he lives. And I haven't seen mountains that big close up since I was in like Quito, Ecuador. Never been down the springs before. It was just awesome. The geology, the red rocks, and the oxidization of the iron, and these cliffs and the erosion. I was just left. I was looking right, I'm looking up, I'm looking down, I'm looking into canyons. It was awesome. So we get to Manitou Springs, and we start going down these one-lane roads, and then up these other ones, and each one's like switchbacked and curved. I think we're going to die, like we're going to hit a car, and Justin's assuring me we're fine. And we're talking roads, I mean, these things look like they were made for burros. They were so narrow. But eventually we get to the house, get to meet the new dog, get to hang out with the cats, and we just chill. He shows me all his fishing gear. I unpack. I've got a guest room to myself. May have had a beer, I don't know. We wait till his wife gets home, and then she drives us down the mountain. By now, it's probably like 8:30 or 9. And I've been tying flies the whole time while we're just chilling. I ended up taking garbage from Justin's kitchen table, paintbrush or microfiber. There was bubble wrap and thread. Ended up just tying up a whole bunch of tricos with just hooks that were on a plate. There was just a plate of 50 mismatched hooks. So I I tie up a bunch of flies, and we end up going into town. And it looks like the town where Rambo was filmed, where he blows it up at the end. You could definitely film some old-fashioned movie down there. And by now, I'm just so tired. I'm not taking pictures of the town. I'm not really paying attention. We finally end up in a bar. The kitchen closes in 5 minutes. So I'm like, are we going to piss off the chef? He's like, no, just order. It wasn't the best burger. I had like 4 tall Cokes with no ice, just to hydrate. And it was a meal. It was nothing great. It wasn't expensive. And we're walking through town, and the most normal people we pass are like the comic book store guys playing Pokemon Go at 11:30. And we walk all the way up these, and it's cold now. We're walking up these switchbacks, and there's an abandoned, like, haunted castle right behind his house in Manitou Springs. And apparently Manitou is the best place to find the Pokemon characters in Colorado. I don't know. Yeah, that was it for Wednesday. So I figured out how to get to Justin, and then we're going to go fish the next day. So let me tell you about that, and hopefully it won't take 18 and a half minutes. All right, so Ian, where are we right now?
So we are at South Platte Fly Shop in Woodland Park, Colorado. We are a premier fly shop in the area. We have 5,000 patterns and sizes. We're sitting on one of the best fisheries in Colorado, the South Platte River. We're about 30 to 40 minutes from any fishing in the area. We've got some big brown trout getting ready to come into the system this fall, kokanee that are getting ready to get into the dream stream.
So for the layperson, why would these fish be moving up into the streams from the reservoir?
So we have a little bit of a migratory fish effect on the dream stream particularly. We have a pretty big reservoir by the name of 11 Mile Canyon Reservoir, and it harbors some rather big fish, and they'll be coming up into the dream for reproduction, food source, or oxygen.
What is kokanee known as when they're not in Colorado?
So they are a landlocked sockeye. We call them kokanee here, though. So that's about it. Oh, okay.
Never know. They might not know. All right, so we're moving into fall right now. How was the summer fishing? How would you get? It's all about water flows here too, right?
So the water's been good this year. The biggest problem we have on the South Platte are low flows, and right now we're getting great water. We got flows in the 170 area mark, right around 200. So big fish are coming in. The low flows will typically keep them out, and right now we got a ton of big lake fish in the fishery. So good time to be here.
And the Dream Stream, how long is that section between Spinning 11 Mile? Because as the crow flies, it's not far, but it meanders a lot.
So it is 3.8 river miles. So got a good amount of water there with all the oxbows and everything else.
What kind of hatches should we expect today?
Right now we got some tricos coming off. Betas, we've been seeing a lot of betas. I'd recommend fishing some beta emergers and BWOs, and then caddis in the evenings. So
You think we might do well with the bird?
I hope you do, bro. I do a lot of mouse fishing, and if you get a bird, you better come back and show me.
Yeah. I've got 6-weight clear floating line.
Yeah.
A little more stealthy.
There you go. I like it, man. You should have a great time out there.
Yeah, so when you're not working in here, can you name the places you fish, or are those hush-hush?
Oh, no, I'll tell you, man. Absolutely. I love fishing the Dream. I've been fishing here my whole life, born and raised. Grew up a lot fishing like in 11 Mile Canyon and Deckers. But the Dream Stream, once you spend a couple good days on that river, there's really no turning back. It's incredible. Don't get me wrong, all the fishing's great here, but there's something really special about that particular stretch of water there.
Any place you'd recommend us eating between here and there?
Yeah, McGinty's Wood Oven Pub.
Yeah, man. We'll have to stop there. I got an Egg McMuffin in his glove box right now, so his dog doesn't eat it while we're in here.
Yeah, you'll love McGinty's, man. Right. It's a good food, good beer.
Where can we find you online? Any social media?
Yep, so Instagram, southplatteflyshot.com. We also have a Facebook, and then we're getting our website kind of revamped, and it's going to be much better than it already is. Check it out. It's going to be really pretty cool.
All right.
So check that out.
Very cool. And where else do you guys offer guided trips?
So we have permits on Badger Basin, Tomahawk. We can take you on the reservoirs, both 11 Mile and Spinney. We can take you for the entire duration of the Dream Stream, all 3.8 river miles, which most shops can't do. There's only a couple that can. And then we can also take you down to Deckers.
Right.
We also have a couple private water, options for you as well.
And I've heard some sad news that Dorothy's Tamales is closed.
I
broke the bad news to you?
Yeah, man, this is new to me.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That's a heartbreaker, though.
I'm sad.
Tamales, huh?
You never got there, did you?
No, I didn't, man.
That's Justin. We'll get to him later.
Okay. What's up, guys?
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for giving us the info on your shop.
Heck yeah. You guys have a great time out there. Tight lines, catch a bunch of fish.
The drive from the South Platte Fly Shop, which we just heard everyone talking in there. Please visit their website. If you're in the area, please stop in and buy some stuff. Awesome fly selection. They had a whole bunch of just crazy stuff in there. I took a couple of pictures. Justin bought a bunch of flies, and we made our way. So as we're pulling into the Dream Stream, we have a road full of donkeys. So we stopped to get them on the podcast, and here's the conversation. Hey, jackass. Hey. How's the fishing out here? You're on the podcast. Do I have your permission? Yes. Do not eat my mic.
So I was like, what
How's the fishing today? Hey, jackass. Anything we should start throwing first?
Alright, I'm splitting.
Hey, man, I want to use your whiskers to tie flies.
Hey, bud.
Hey, have you seen Shrek?
Shit, I'm a donkey.
So we moved from there to the Charlie Myers area. I load up my 6-weight, put on my Cortland Clear floating line, walk down to the bridge with my Dennis Eckroat baby bird fly that's based off the Pat Cohen bird fly. Now, I've been waiting 11 years now to do this. Fish a bird fly under a bridge where baby swallows might fall out of their nests. I got this plan in 2005, and I had to wait for somebody to come up with the bird fly. I just never really thought of anything, and of course, Pat Cohen being Pat Cohen, he came up with it. So I'm down there, and I'm fishing 8-pound or 10-pound tippet, and I'm dropping it, letting it sink through or swing through. It's made of deer hair. It's not sinking. I splat it down, and I let it flop around. And the water's super fast, and there are just no birds in these nests. So I'm not really there at the right time of year for this to work. So I ended up just calling it off after 5 minutes. Justin now shows up, and there are fish above the bridge that are feeding. So he starts working them with some nymphs, maybe emergers, I don't know. I'm on the other side of the stream. I'm working these fish with bacon flies, and I get nothing. And then I step on a snake, don't know if it's a rattler, I scream, and I decide I'm done with this spot. Let's pack up and go upstream towards the top of the dam. And we'll see what's up there. I want to fish the cool, clear water coming out of Spinney Mountain. And if you've never fished the Dream Stream, again, it's the stretch of water between Spinney Mountain Reservoir and 11 Mile Canyon that meanders through a high alpine plateau. And when I say it meanders, it goes left and right and curls and oxbows, and it's not too deep, it's crystal clear, and the bug life is prolific. The fish can live year-round in there, and so does the things they feed on, and there's a lot of fish. It's pretty awesome if you've never been there. Okay, so we go up to there, and I switch out. And I'm still fishing my 6-weight, I think. I'm fishing my 6 or I'm fishing my... Yeah, I'm fishing my 6-weight clear line. And I got to adjust my eyes now because they're trout rising. And they're rising to trichos. The trichos are everywhere. Every time you step, they're coming up. They're covering your glasses. They're in the water and the eddies. And you see one head come up and sip. And another head come up and sip. And you start mentally timing it and trying to, pinpoint one fish, and you really have got to adjust your eyes to see through the glare and the wind to pick out that fish. You put on a long leader, you put on a indicator fly like a Royal Wolf or Royal Coachman or a hopper, and then behind that, the smallest I've got is 4X, and I put on Justin finally convinced me to put on a parachute because he broke off one fish that was probably in the 20-plus inch range. And these are all sight castings. And then he loses another one and convinces me, all right, time to put on a parachute fly. So I open up my Wheatley box and I go through and I find this size 18 cinnamon-looking dry fly parachute. And I put that on. And before that, when I was swapping out different flies, I was throwing worms. I was throwing eggs. I found a hole with just fish on the bottom feeding on something. I couldn't see what. Remember, my line is clear, and his dog is off the leash. So his dog runs upstream to chase some geese and runs through my line and catches my line, and I'm holding the fly, and then it gets stuck in my hand, and the dog's still running. So it's a cluster F. And Zep did that at least 2 more times to me. I would have just tied a boat anchor to him behind Justin, or tied him to Justin. But it was all good. It's fun fishing with a dog that's young and excited and learning how to be a fishing dog with you. So I finally see some fish rising, and Justin's right next to me. And I throw my fly, and the hopper goes past, and then the little parachute goes by. And I throw another cast, and there's this one fish in the hole that goes down and is moving its mouth, and Justin's like, dude, did he just eat your fly? I was like, no. But I lifted my rod anyway just to be sure, and sure enough, I've got a cut bow or a rainbow on the end of my line. It was pretty nuts. The fly was so small, and I'm not used to fishing like that. I land this fish, and we get some nice pictures. I chuck it back in, and we move upstream, and Justin picks off a couple more. And he's pretty much lost all of his flies. So now he puts on the trash fly is what we call it. And he starts seeing rising fish, and he starts casting to them, and he starts hooking them. Now the problem is you can't see a fly the size of a sprinkle from your ice cream Jimmy, depending on where you are in the world, that far away in that glare. So you see the fish that you're casting to eat, and you set the hook on it, and you miss a lot of them because the timing's just off. You don't know what's going on, but man, every 10 shots maybe you're gonna hook into a fish, and sure enough, Justin is doing that. It was awesome. I just sat back and watched him for a while, and we move upstream some more past the parking lot, and I don't know how many fish were landed by now. And the wind's picked up, so the fish are not rising anymore. There's definitely a storm brewing behind us. The sky's getting darker, and I start fishing the mouse pattern. I got the 6-weight, and I'm bombing out like 40, 50-foot casts across the stream onto the grass on the other side and dragging the mouse in and swimming it across. And these trout dudes with their 8-foot 4-weights are just watching me like, what the heck is going on here? Because I guess they're not used to seeing people cast far, but that's what we do out here when we have space and we're on the boat, so I'm doing it. Justin hooks a pig, and I have to run all the way over, and I'm like, because I'm in altitude, and I'm sprinting through grass, and none of the time I'm wearing waders. I'm in probably just flip-flops and quick-dry pants at this point. And now the wind's really picking up, and the sky's getting dark and ominous, and we're like, all right, let's head out of here. I'm going to eat my second Egg McMuffin that's been in the glove box. I had to put it in the glove box because the dog would have eaten it when we were in the car in the shop. All right, Justin, where are we right now?
We're in between the Dream Stream and 11 Mile Canyon.
All right, so we left the fly shop. We drove up to the Dream Stream, and we putzed around the bridge for a bit. I went out and tried Dennis's from OMF Fly Company's baby bird fly. Throw that under the bridge, try to see if there may be some fish that eat the birds that fall out of the nests. There were no birds in the nests, so I wasn't really matching the hatch. And Justin tried to cast a couple up above the bridge. You saw some flashes in the water?
Yeah, they were on the bottom for sure. But I'm pretty slow getting my stuff together this morning, so you were ready to move on at that point. So
we jumped back in the car and drove up about as far as we could and started fishing the meandering bends on the Dream, and there were trichos everywhere. So what did you pick out?
Well, we first started with a really small blue wing olive parachute, and that was working, but I lost it on two nice fish, and we then tried the trash fly, which is spent tricho, that Rob here. Did you make it up, man? Or?
Yeah, I just made it up last night. It was microfibets, yarn or thread, and bubble wrap for the wings.
Yeah, no, that's a cool fly for sure, and it worked. I caught a lot of fish on that fly, and a nice one there at that for sure.
You lost a big one too.
Yeah, that was a good fish, and I don't know, it just broke me off really quick. Just
what size tippet were you using?
It was the 6X of frog hair, but they make it a little bit smaller in diameter, so it's closer to the 5. So 5, 6X.
And then I decided I was switching out from I can see it midges to little tricho emergers to tricho spinners, but I put on some parachute fly, like at 18, just kind of mahogany colored, and threw that in. I mean, there were fish rising everywhere in front of us and around us and below us. And Justin must have better eyes for seeing this because he sees my fly go down.
Oh, yeah, on that cupo. Yeah, in my peripheral, I'm tying on a fly, and I saw the take, and Rob was just standing there, so I was like, what would I say? Was that you? And
that's not me. So I lift up my rod, and sure enough, I see a fish shake its head, so I set the hook and come up to a nice little cut bow.
That was a good fish. Yeah, that was cool, real cool.
Yeah, glad you had the net, because I'm wet wading. I wasn't about to jump in thigh deep to try and land that thing easier amongst the brush. But trichos everywhere. Every time you'd step, they were coming up. There were hoppers everywhere. The mice pattern didn't work. And then there's this huge storm. It's 2:30 right now on Thursday. So there's this big storm blowing in from the north, and the wind picked up. I switched to a mouse and got nothing. And by then we decided to call it. I think we made the right call because it got super windy and breezy. We're headed over to fish another stream. We may or may not tell you where we are, but I am going to be fishing streamers down below and then dry droppers way up top. Hopefully that storm doesn't blow through here. I just had my Egg McMuffin round 2 that's been in the glove box to keep the dog from eating it, and a little jug of water, And we are on our way to spot number 2. We'll fill you in as things happen, so stay tuned. So we're driving to our second stream, and the storm's starting to blow in, and we get to this canyon, and I wanted to fish 11 Mile and Cheeseman and Deckers. And we only pick one of those. I don't want to hot spot any locations. But if you fish out there, you'll know what we're talking about. So we make the turn off in, and the woman at the gate says, big storm's on the way. And we're like, yeah, no S, lady. And we can't check our phones up here because there's no reception. I can't get my Doppler. I'm looking at my watch, and my barometer's not really that accurate at this point. So we drive up this canyon road, and we pull off at one of Justin's favorite spots, and he's at the car changing flies. I grab my rod and start walking down, and out of nowhere, the temperature drops like 20 degrees with ice cold water pelting me. And I try to wait it out, and I yank my fly back, and it gets stuck in a tree, and I just drop my rod and sprint back to the car. And we sit in the car for 15, 20 minutes, wait for the storm to pass and get out. And I went and got my rod. Nothing in that hole, so we drive upstream. That's the great thing about fishing a canyon. Every spot you can fish as long as you can access it. And there are some drop-offs and ledges and cliffs. And I swear I saw a rock that looked like Donald Trump. And I should have taken a picture of it because I could have put it on that Mildly Amusing Reddit. If you don't look at Mildly Amusing, that's one of my new favorite online things. Somebody squeezed out toothpaste and it looked like a cat one day. Weird. You see stuff. People are curious and creative out there, and they see things and stuff. So I saw a rock that looked like Trump. We pull off to one of Justin's spots, and we walk down, and we're walking through, shoulder-length brush. So now I'm soaked. He's got waders on. I'm fishing a bacon fly with split shot and the pink worm tied at beer tie as my dropper. And my third cast, and I've got Zepp on my side. I lay out this long cast, lift my rod to keep the line out of the fast water so it slides behind a rock, and then I start stripping and popping my rod, and I catch about a 9-inch brown on the worm. It was awesome. Justin sits there and works that hole longer than me. I fish it a couple times through exhaustion, and that is it. So I move upstream with Zepp, and now if I was drenched before from walking through wet brush, I am soaked to the bone. And I move up, and there's a little eddy and a boulder. And the water's cut underneath this boulder, and I say to myself, Snowhite! And there's going to be a trout under there. Because after doing this long enough, there are rules to fish. That's what I tell my clients. There are certain places a fish will be in every stream, lake, pond, body of water, based on shelter, structure, hiding from predators, looking for fish to spawn with, etc. So I get down there and I start bouncing my bacon fly with the pink worm under this undercut through this little slide or glide. And I'm pretty sure I took a picture of it. I like to take pictures of spots where I hook or catch a fish. If I ever have to do a PowerPoint, or if I'm ever going to write a book, I will have spots that I can say, this is what you want to look for. But I don't really write because you have to have proper grammar. I like to do a podcast because I can just sit here and talk, because if there's one thing I do, it's I don't shut up. So I swing it by and I start popping the fly out, and sure enough, a nice 10, 12-inch trout comes up, grabs the wormage. I set the hook, he pops off, and I'm like, damn it. And then I hear, Snowhite, get down here. And it's Justin, he's on a fish. So I reel in, stick my fly in my rod butt, because Orvis doesn't have hook keeps on 6 weights and up in salt water. And I have to run through those trees and brush again. So I'm just beyond, my bones are wet now. And Justin hooks, lands a fish. I get a picture of it. And then I go back upstream to try and hook another fish in that hole. Try another hole or two. Tried some riffles and runs. Nothing. Go back, fish downstream about 30 yards with Justin. I lose another fish. And then we get in the car to move upstream because it's a canyon and you can do that. So now we're driving upstream and I think we go all the way to the top now. No, we stopped at another hole. And I'm like, dude, right here. Because I'm on the right-hand side looking down in the water. I'm like, right, stop right here. So we hop down. I got the bacon fly and the worm on. It's probably a 6 or 7 foot hole. And Justin's next to me watching me. And I throw that fly in, and it's got 3 BB split shot, and it sinks down. I'm stripping it. The faster I strip, the more those trout were chasing the worm. And that's one thing I learned from Tom years ago, was to strip fast a San Juan worm. But these are the silicon ones from Michael's craft store. I can't tell you how many fish I lost. Now, it's cloudy and overcast. It's windy. I'm cold. And the water's very deep. So you can only really see the white mouth of the fish. It's not like I'm using an indicator to see. Visually when there's a take, I have to actually see it happen. And I miss fish after fish after fish. I adjust my weights. I adjust the length of the dropper. I switch to the rubber wormage made from the Fusilli Glow Ball, which I can no longer get commercially. Excuse me. And I give up after a while. So we start fishing upstream. I probably hook and miss, lose 2 or 3 more trout. At this point, I just can't believe how many fish are in here and how many fish I'm missing. We drive up top. I crack a cold beer. I'm going to take a little break, change up my rig, and we go to the top just below the dam and where the public stretch starts. And not much is going on. There's a couple fish 40 feet away rising, but due to the fast water between us and them, it just won't happen. If I had like a 15-foot rod, I could do it. Or if I had my Tenkara rod with that reach, I definitely could have gotten into those fish. I have a couple fish that go for the worm, and now I'm switching out. I'm doing worms, I'm doing streamers, I'm doing eggs, pheasant tails, midges. I mean, I'm switching out flies probably every 10 to 15 casts. And Justin finally figures out that they're taking like a size 18 to 20 flashback pheasant tail. And now it's getting really cold. And I'm still wet, and the wind's picking up. It's probably 4 in the afternoon. 5 o'clock maybe. And he lands 3 fish. I don't think I landed anything. I had been sight casting to this beautifully colored rainbow or cut bow behind a log, right on a seam, in crystal clear water, maybe 1.5 feet deep. I wanted that fish, just the colors. I may have gotten a bite or 2, but then I break off and I'm like, F it, I'm done for the day. Let's go home. We're both hungry. I mean, all I had was egg McMuffins, maybe some jelly beans that were in Justin's center console that had fallen out of a bag. I think that was like it. So we drive down and we stop to get... and there's 2 guys from Wisconsin that are coming in as we're leaving. And they're in like jeans and shoes. And I was wet wading like thigh deep. And eventually up in that water, you just kind of go numb and adjust to it. So I'm cold. It had been raining. I'm standing in water. I get out. These 2 guys walk in as we're leaving. We say goodbye, tell them what we're getting them on, and we head down towards the springs, and we stop to get a 6-pack of beer. I wanted some Odell's. I ended up getting 90 shilling. I should have got the IPA. Less malt. I should have gone for, instead of malt, more hoppy. And the 2 guys from Wisconsin come in, like, oh man, after you guys left, it was awesome. We started hooking them left and right. They were rising everywhere. And I look at the dude, I just say, then why are you here? So I'm pretty sure those guys were just BSing us, that they gave up and decided to go get a cerveza themselves. So we get back down to Colorado Springs, and it's pretty much dark. Talia's not home yet, so I start making dinner. I start making some mac and cheese, and I do a garlic and chili infused butter with cream. And then I teach Justin how to make a box of Mrs. T's pierogies, where you just boil them or let them defrost, which is what I like to do. And then a little bit of butter and canola oil in the pan, and you crisp them up. And I made an Asian like teriyaki soy spicy dipping sauce. And he was so hungry he couldn't wait while I was doing that. So he ate a box of his wife's like halibut fingers from Trader Joe's, and that woman was pissed. When she came home and saw him, he left like 2 halibut fingers for her. Well, the funny thing Talia did the other night is we were talking about driving up to Denver on Friday and stopping at Waffle House. And I was like, yeah, man, I've never been to Waffle House. And she kind of hit the brakes and put her palm, like her hand up. Was like, whoa, you've never been to Waffle House? And I was like, there aren't any in Northern Virginia. I don't know. So we eat our dinner, and we are exhausted. So we crash. The plan, we talked to Tom, is to get up we're going to meet Tom at 08:30 at his house, pack the boat, and go to the reservoir. So I'm going to fill you in on that next. It was pretty awesome. I got a good night's sleep. I crashed hard. I mean, I don't get to fish that often, let alone fish from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. nonstop with all that walking and altitude. And all the time I wanted just like an ice cold Coca-Cola. But I had 3 beers, probably 4 beers that day, and didn't want to put any more carbonation in my guts in altitude. Because altitude and bowels and gas and carbonation are just a bad mix. So we go to bed. Our alarms are set for quite early. We get up and we head down to some cult coffee shop, as Justin explains it, in Manitou Springs. And I later learned from Tom that Manitou Springs is named after the different types of water that come out from the ground. And each one has its own property chemically. Like one is full of lithium, so bums with heart conditions go and drink it. And there's some that have more iron in them. And dude, I would have totally drank my weight in the iron one, because in altitude I could use some more oxygen in my body. Remember, hemoglobin and iron bind together in your blood to allow you to get more oxygen to your heart. If you remember back to the days from your pulmonary and aortas and whatnot. So he gets his green tea that he loves and like a cinnamon bun, and I'm like, dude, I'll eat later. I don't even know if I ate breakfast that day. I can't remember. But we meet up with Tom, and then we load up the boat. And I haven't been to Tom's house in a couple of years. He's got a duck hunting trailer in his driveway that is nothing but decoys and duck hunting gear for when he and his buddies go out to Nebraska. And so we load up his new truck. He got rid of the Xterra. So we're in this awesome Dodge truck that's in there, all the gear's in the boat. We go to 7-Eleven so I can get some water. I had forgotten my gallon of water at Justin's house. And I was pretty scared going down the mountain in Manitou Springs with those windy roads. It was nuts. But it was fun seeing the castle in daylight. And we see all the tweakers at the bottom of the mountain. And there's I'm telling you, there's some weird dudes that hang out down there in Manitou. So we head down to 7-Eleven, and I get a steak and cheese sub heated up for breakfast, and then I get like a turkey bacon pimento something for later. 7-Eleven sandwiches are pretty damn good. $3, you know, they're made every morning, and the fact that they'll heat them up for you. So we're driving to this reservoir. It's about an hour's drive northeast of Denver, and I'm chowing down on my sandwich. And we're driving. It's like the middle of nowhere. The lake we end up at looks like the Salton Sea. Just a couple random houses and farms out there. Shoreline. And the first thing I noticed when we opened the car door is that the place smells of dead fish everywhere. And the ranger guy comes up to us to take some tag off of Tom's boat. Because once you go from out of a reservoir, they have to mark your boat that it came from there before you go to the next one and make sure that you're not transferring invasive species between. And the guy can't figure out that we're going to be fly fishing for carp, let alone releasing them there. I guess people just go and just shoot them and kill them and leave them. Because there's just dead carp everywhere. And it turns out the carp just die from natural causes. They get run over by boats. People shoot them. I don't know. But it's a huge reservoir. And I get to back the car in with the boat. Never driven a pickup that big. Well, I have. I used to be an engineer for an environmental remediation company in the late 90s, and I was driving a Dodge Ram between sites. If you've ever been to Dulles Airport, I supervised the Dollar Rent-A-Car parking lot construction. That's my project. With a biology background, I did that as an engineer. And one day, the pickup truck got so covered in mud, I had to take it to the car wash. It was so wide, I got stuck in the car wash. Now, this is 1999 when cell phones were pretty dodgy, and I couldn't get a signal to call anybody back to come get me. And eventually, the guy realized that I had to come out there after 15 or 20 minutes, and he came and turned it off. I couldn't open the window because the water would have filled up the truck. It wasn't my truck. So I have driven a truck that big, but it's like 17 years. So I back it down and go park the boat, and as I'm walking along to the boat ramp, it's like a jetty, and the boat ramp's on the end. There are just carp everywhere feeding along the jetty. And there's dead ones along the shore. There are skeletons sticking up. There are pelicans. There's cormorants. There's blue herons. There's egrets. There's sandpipers. There's killdeer. The wildlife is amazing. And I'm going nuts. I've never seen this many carp before, let alone feeding, let alone in one spot. So we get out of the boat and we gun it. We're going like 30 miles an hour to one of the coves. It's super windy. It's overcast. We are just not getting any fish. We don't see tailors. Now these fish are jumping all around us. You'll hear that when I interview Tom later. I'll play that, I guess, after this segment. Or I guess Jason will, because he's the producer. And we see a couple, we're maybe in 10 to 14 inches of water, and it's so murky with the wind, we don't see jack. So we go to another spot, same thing, just don't see any tailors, just see them jumping up, and just dead ones with their eyeballs gone, floating everywhere. And the whole thing is like a sand bottom. It was really weird. I would take my rod tip. We had a depth finder, but I wasn't near it. So I'd take my rod tip and poke the bottom just to see how deep we were. And you could feel, it was inches of wet sand in the bottom. We go to a third spot, which is the intake. I'm sorry. We go back towards the jetty to get out of the wind. And right by the office where that dude worked from earlier I mentioned, there it is. There's a carp tailing. And I got my 6-weight, my clear floating line, and I got my Cree bug tied on with a non-slip mono loop. I put it in front of this carp, and I twitch, and it starts swimming towards it. And then it kind of pauses and moves its head. It's that point, again, I don't know what causes me to set the hook when I'm fishing for carp, because I can't see anything in the water here. I set it, and I'm on. And the carp just kind of sits there. I'm like, huh? The ones I hooked last time in Columbus, they took off. This thing, nothing. And it's like trying to get your dog to come in the house or something. I'm just like dragging it. And after the shortest carp fight ever, Tom just grabbed, we don't even net the thing. It just gave up from the start. It was awful. And I pull this thing out with the boga grips, and it's bleeding from between its scales. Like, it had a little bit of blood, and from holding it up, like, blood is running down the fish. Like stigmata. It was disgusting. Disgusting is an understatement for how gross this carp was. And then I went to grab the tail to do a grip and grin, and Tom and Justin were like, no! Like, don't touch that fish with your bare hands. So we take a couple pictures of it. Tom wanted to just shoot it with his sidearm and put it out of its misery. But we throw it back in, and it swims away, and I'm so grossed out. I was almost getting spitty mouth and nauseous from seeing this carp. But sure enough, yeah, Mr. Rubber Lips had that right in the corner of his mouth. It was pretty cool. And now it's Justin's turn on the bow, or he's in the back. I don't remember. And I'm drinking a nice cold Stewart's root beer that Justin brought me. And we go to the intake where the South Platte River fills the reservoir. And there are carp in there. There's a couple feeding right on this sandy point where the sand has been deposited coming out. So I guess that's the inside bend, and nothing. And we go up this thing maybe 50, 60 yards, and they're carp just jumping. They're carp under the trees. Just can't get anything to eat. I finally understand what people mean when I say I'm going shad fishing, and they're like, you mean those little things? Because the lake was full of little gizzard shads, like, I don't know, 4 inches long, and every time we turn on the engine and go across the lake, they start flying everywhere. I guess that's the forage for the walleye. And the whole thing's only 15 feet deep. Not a very deep reservoir. So now we're like, all right, let's go back to the original spot. The wind has calmed down, the sun is out, we get back over there, and we start trolling. Tom's on the trolling motor. He's not even fishing. He's guiding us for the day. What happens? Justin sees one. We see this fish from, it takes probably 2 or 3 minutes to get to it with the trolling motor. And we sit there, and Justin sight casts to it, and it eats his fly. I don't remember what he was throwing. It may have been a cree bug. It may have been a rubber-legged stonefly I gave him. I don't know. And again, the fish is like, wah, wah. It just doesn't want to fight. He basically just reels the thing in, and Tom scoops it up, and we get some grip and grins. It looks like he's pooping his pants the way, I don't know, it looks like he's constipated in the picture of Justin. But I think it was his first carp, or at least 30-plus inch carp on the fly. We throw it back in, and we start going along that shoreline again. Probably 20 minutes later, I'm just trolling. I mean, we're sight casting to stuff. We're blind casting. They're jumping all around us. I'm just trolling my cree bug in the water. Carp picks it up. So I've got this monster 30-plus incher now that I'm fighting on the reel. It's not making my reel scream, but, I reel it in. It pulls line out. It's a big fish. Get it to the boat. Pops me off after maybe a 5-minute fight. So now we're trolling again, doop-de-doop. I think I have a worm on. Ended up foul hooking a carp in the back while we're trolling. And Justin's a little seasick. He's a little queasy. I don't think that boy's used to being on boats. He's from the land of corn, not water. We start seeing these fish, and you call them Mr. Rubber Lips. It just looks like inflatable sex doll lips moving 6 to 8 inches under the water. And the carp are in schools of 8 to 10 each. And there's probably 15 to 20 schools in maybe 2 feet of water. We're casting cree bugs, and they're dropping next to them. And these fish are mouth up, tail down. Not mouth down, tail up. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Why is nothing looking at this fly going past us? We start swapping out flies and changing things around. And then a pelican flies over, and they all just explode in one huge pod, just disappears. And Tom's like, nah, just give it a minute, man. See what happens. A minute later, they're back feeding. Several inches under the surface, eyes up, mouths moving. And it almost looks like it's like 5 people singing at a microphone a cappella or something. I guess a cappella wouldn't be a microphone, but it looks like 5 people singing around a microphone. Like they're doing doo-wop. And we're cruising around, and I start looking down at the water. And we're trying to figure out, I'm like, are they breathing? Tom's like, what the hell are they eating? And we can't figure it out. And I look down, and earlier Tom's like, it's going to take you like 40 minutes for your eyes to adjust to be able to spot these. Because he can see these fish, the shadows of them, 100 yards away. We'd creep up on them, and I finally, my eyes are adjusting, after 2+ hours in the water, maybe 3 hours, and I look down, I see trichos, little black bodies with white wings. And I'm like, I wonder if they're eating trichos. And they're not eating worms, streamers, crayfish, stoneflies, anything else on the bottom. And we're like, maybe they're eating seeds, but I don't see any like cottonwood seeds out here. So I put on a little mini Chernobyl, size 12, about 3 feet of 2X, because the only tippet I have from Orvis is 2X and 4X. And I put on a tricho emerger, or basically a size 18 or 20, black thread body with a little white puff on the back. And I cast it over, and I see this fish move. I don't know if I saw the grasshopper move, but I set the hook. Grasshopper goes down. Line starts coming off my reel. Holy crap, I just hooked a 30-inch fish on a size 18 fly. And it's on. We are chasing this fish down. It is, remember, carp don't tire. I'm going to write a carp podcast this fall or winter, and I want to learn as much about them as I can because I'm getting more obsessed with them. I've done the Dan Frazier podcast and Jay Zimmerman. Jay's wasn't about carp, though, but he wrote the book. And it was also cool seeing Jay's flies in person because you don't see Umpqua flies really around here. Got to see his ditch damsel. Snow white damsel's better, I'm just saying. And we are chasing this fish down. And we're chasing it down and chasing it down. And we get it to the boat, and Tom scoops it, and it gets out of the net, and it swims off. And we get it back to the net. And this is just going on and on. And the crazy thing is, none of us can believe that I've hooked 30-inch plus fish on a fly that's, a speck and this itty-bitty hook. And finally, the thing pops off. And Tom's like, dude, what are you going to do? You just hooked a 30-inch rubber lip fish. It's not like the hook is in a bony mouth between mandibles. Trout don't have lips. Bass don't have lips. They have mandibles. And if your hook penetrates, it goes through that and it gets caught. So I re-rig, I calm down, I catch my breath. Would have loved to have had a cocktail to calm my nerves. And we do it again. The fish are starting to disappear now. I'm just standing there. Before we were trolling, I've just got the hopper under my feet with that fly. And Tom is trolling, and the wind's blowing us a bit towards the pod. And all of a sudden, I'm like, where's my hopper? And I lift my rod, and the line goes down. I set the hook. Boom. A carp had picked up my trico emerger, whatever midge thing you want to call it, next to the boat, right under my toes, and starts taking off. And at this point, Tommy, the last fish, Tom had jumped in his underwear, just boxers and barefoot, with the net to try and land the fish. I said, this time, back me into the shallows, I'm jumping out to fight this fish. I'm getting this fish on my terms. And it's circling the boat, and we're fighting it. And I think I had too much line on my reel for it to be able to peel line off, if that makes sense. Too much backing, and the line was too thick. And finally, I jump off. Nowadays, all right, phone out, microphone out, camera, whatever. All my electronics, wallet on the deck of the boat. I jump out, fighting this thing, man. My heart's pounding. I'm sweating. Adrenaline is rushing. And guess what? Throws the freaking hook right at the net. So I can't believe it. And now it turns out, after that's all done, the wind has come back. There's ripples in the water. We can't see jack. And the fish are gone. We're not getting any more on tricos. And Justin's sitting in the back. He's got one of Tom's ridiculous-looking cicada flies as his sight fly with the trico in the back. So I cut off, and I put on a Cree bug and, I don't know, like a tungsten HNIC behind it. And we're starting to troll again, and I feel a tug, and I set the hook. I catch my first walleye ever. Granted, it was 6 or 7 inches long, but hey, I caught my first walleye of my life. Bucket list, scratch it off. We go back to the inlet to try and get in there and out of the wind, and we're sight casting to some and nothing. I get a small largemouth bass, probably the same size as the walleye. And now it's like 3 o'clock. I told the wife I'd be back at the condo by dinner time, or before that, so I could eat dinner and put the pixie to bed. So we probably end up leaving there 3:30 to 4 o'clock. We're beat. I mean, we're out in the sun, with the wind. It took all my strength to stay awake in that car. And the whole time, it's just guy talk. We're laughing, we're farting, we're telling jokes, telling dirty stories, trying to get Justin and Tom to be friends so they can start hunting and fishing together. So hopefully they get a little bromance going and get my 2 East Coast guys together out west. And also, Justin's wife is a hardcore skier, so I think I have someone that can now ski with my wife when my wife is out at my in-laws. So we're driving back and we hit traffic and like I said, we're in the middle of freaking nowhere. You can see, I can see maybe a mile at any time here in most spots. I can see like 15 miles ahead of me. I can see like 6 different microburst thunderstorms raining from the cloud until they hit the ground. Just crazy openness. So it takes about an hour and a half to get back. Say goodbye to Justin. We get him some pheasant feathers from Tom's garage so he can go tie up some more pheasant tails. I think Justin's motto is it doesn't matter what you use out there as long as it's a pheasant tail or an RS2. And then we get back, and Tom's wife gets home, and she's like, hey, how are you getting back to Breckenridge? And I was like, oh, Tom's going to drive me so Justin doesn't. And we hang out for a little bit. I get some feathers from Tom. I get a full pheasant skin and 2 rumps. And he's still working on my bamboo rod. We don't know if we're going to be able to fish it. It's just for the Pixie to catch bluegill on. It's an old beater that he's refurbished. It's a little bent. But I was like, dude, it's for bluegill. He's like, all right, fine. I'll get it to you next time I see you. So we get in Marla's car, and she gets 50 miles to the gallon with some electric. And there's some accidents, so it takes us a while to get out of Denver. We finally get up to the mountains. We get to Breckenridge around 7. And Tom's Russian, so he hangs out with my in-laws, and they're talking Russian, and he's telling all these crazy stories about being an EMT up at the casinos, and just crazy stories about people that smoked grass back in the 60s and 70s and haven't done it in 30, 40 years and come up to Colorado and buy stuff, and I guess it's stronger now, and they smoke the same amount they did back then, and they just pass out on the floor of the casino. And there's bums that take the free bus up, and they do penny slots all day and get free drinks, and then they pass out on the floor of the casinos, and just crazy stories. So that was Friday night, and Tom is going to try and drive back on Saturday. I think we all ate dinner on Friday night. I don't remember. Can't remember Friday night. I was so damn tired. So I hit the hay, and I get up early on Saturday morning, and I'll catch you up with what happened to Saturday morning next. All right, welcome to Saturday morning. I forgot to mention that most of the time I was laughing to podcasts, driving in the van, the bus to the Springs. I was looking at flies on Pinterest. It's pretty interesting how many cool flies are up on Pinterest. I don't really do anything with Pinterest, but I was looking up a fly, and it came up on Pinterest, so I just started scrolling through Pinterest flies. So I get up early on Saturday, and I started getting my rod and reel ready to go fishing later in the day. The wife wants to head down early in the morning to see the Spartan race in Breckenridge, which is the highest elevation they've ever done a Spartan race. And it's like 8 in the morning. It's cold. And as we're walking down there, the wife takes me on a trail that she takes to get to the ski slopes. Our place is ski in, ski out if there's snow on the ground. And we cross the Blue River on a bridge, and I didn't know we were that close to the Blue River, and there are trout rising everywhere, and there's a dude picking off trout left and right. It's like, sweet, man, I'm going to come back here later on. So we head over to the Spartan race, and we see the first guy to finish, and then like 10 minutes later, the second guy, and he's huffing and puffing. Apparently, he's some world champion Spartan dude, Army Ranger guy. I'm checking out all the hot chicks in yoga pants. The wife is just admiring all these shirtless beefcakes that are doing the Spartan race. I don't know how these guys were running in that elevation, swimming through the Breck Outdoor Rec pond, and then jumping in a pool and rolling through grass in that weather and that elevation. More credit to those people. So we spend a little bit of time up there, and we get some free stuff. I find the Army booth, and I get some water bottles because I need to fill up on water because I left my water jug back in the Springs. And turns out Tom can't come up. He's got to work. So I'm going to have to figure out to fish later in the day. So from there, we head back up to the condo and eat breakfast. I think my wife made a frittata or something. And I had some gravy, like some biscuit gravy and some crusty ciabatta with garlic inside it, something. Anyway, we're going to go to Keystone because there's a kids festival. So Uncle Mike gets in the car, I get in the car, the Pixie gets in the car, I grab my gear, decide, you know what, I'm fishing my spot in Keystone. I'm not jumping in. I'm going to wear my Ariat boots and my Bundeswehr pants. We make the drive over to Keystone. Haven't been to Keystone probably since when I hooked my arm down there in the Snake River in 2009. So they drop me off, and I see some poppies, and I collect the seeds in a little Charlie's Fly Box container. I head over to my spot, and I don't see any fish. It's bright bluebird sky, and there are crazy people mountain biking down the slopes in front of me. And I'm like, this is why I fish. I'm not doing. They're wearing full body armor, helmets, knee pads, shin pads, elbow pads, in case they fall down a mountain while riding a bike. So I get to my spot, and I put on tungsten HNIC, and I throw on the pink worm behind it, and I start fishing through my hole. You know, the biggest fish I've pulled out of there is about 20 inches. I've had fish bend hooks straight in that hole. It's one of my secret spots. I catch a brook trout. Tiny one, 6 inches. They're great. It's my first brook trout in 11 years, so I'm pretty stoked. I take pictures of it, do a little Twitter challenge to see who can guess the fish. They'll get a dozen of the flies. Jesse, I'll send out your flies soon. Cowgirl Jesse won the contest. And then I move upstream, and I'm like, why are there no fish in this spot? So I see another big hole upstream that I've pulled fish out of, and I'm like, all right, I can run across this pretty easily. It's not too deep. Sure enough, I step in a hole. I'm up to my knee in water. I'm like, whatever. So now I'm wet. I'm walking through bushes that are wet. I'm like, well, I should have had waders, but screw it. I would have torn up my feet on flip-flops anyway. Move upstream. Not hooking anything in any of these holes. Not seeing fish. Turquoise water, 3-4 foot deep. There's runs, riffles, boulders, drop-offs, eddies, undercut banks, switching out flies. Nothing. Move upstream a bit, hook a bacon fly on the other side, and I've only got like 7 bacon flies with me. So I decide to cross the stream, just thigh deep, get my stuff wet, whatever, I'll dry off. Get back, get the fly, cross back over, walk downstream. Now there's another guy fishing, and I'm like, do you hook anything? He's like, I don't see a single fish, man. He's like, they stock it this year? He's like, I don't think so. So I figure I'm still going to fish. I'm going to keep walking down because this water is crystal clear, and it's like glacially runoff. It's liquid snow, basically. And I keep fishing these spots that should have fish in them, and nothing at all. And I cross the stream again to get back to the right side where I came from and hope that I don't have to get wet again because I'm starting to dry off after about 30 minutes. Still fishing bacon now with a wormy dropper. I keep saying, all right, and I'm done. I'll fish one more spot. And I get to the next spot, and I'm like, all right, the spot next to it is my last one. And then I see this kind of waterfall area with wooden boards across, and I'm like, sweet, dude. There's got to be something in here. So I start bouncing the fly around there, and I decide to lift my rod up to cast again. Rainbow comes up, boom. Got like a 12, 13-inch rainbow on. Throws the hook. I'm like, all right, well, at least I know there's more fish in here. But I got to cross the stream in the middle to fish the rest of the hole. And I get over there, and sure enough, I hook into a fingerling, 8-inch brown. Lose him too, because the water's so deep and fast and just bubbly from the drop-off that I just can't see anything. Fish another 5-10 minutes, say screw it, I'm getting hungry, I'm going to go find the family. So I walk back up to the Keystone Resort. Everyone's outside having beers, and I sit down on a bench, take off my boots, and wring out my socks. And there's like, what the deal is it with this guy? Get my socks pretty much dried out, drain my shoes, get the rocks out of them, break down my rod, go to find the family. Finally find them, and the wife does not have Find My Friends on her phone. So I had to call her, and turns out they're right next to me. We're going to go back to Breckenridge because they're setting up for the Bourbon and Bacon Festival, and I want to go do some fishing back at that dry fly hole. So we get in the car, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to post pictures of these waters. God, that Snake River is absolutely stellar. So I'm walking up to the condo, and I think I see another sex toy. I'm like, why do I keep finding sex toys when I go fishing? This thing's red and oblong. It's got 2 bulges in the back and 1 in the front. I get up close. Luckily, it's a Kong, not a dong, and some dog left his chew toy. So I get up there and I change my pants. I may have eaten something, I don't know. Rig up the 4-weight. I'm going to do a Mr. Rapidan with a little parachute. Take my daughter down, and she's got her face painted like a cat or something. And we head down towards that hole in the blue. And sure enough, the night before, who knows what time they were coming off, but now it's 3 o'clock. I'm like, all right, 3 to 4 o'clock, I know these fish are rising. My calendar's set for the rest of the trip. Start casting, and boom, I'm start picking off browns, rainbows, boom, boom, boom. And I've got a net that I found years ago, probably 11 years ago, that's in the condo. So the Pixie is starting to net my fish for me. She doesn't want to sight cast, and the wife's trying to get me to go, and my mother-in-law's trying to get me to go. And I'm like, look, I don't see anything when you got a powder day. When you have fish this many and this decent size rising to this many dry flies, you don't leave. So they eventually left me, and I kept fishing, and I'm picking fish off left and right. It's getting cold now. It's probably 5 o'clock, and we work our way around Maggie Pond. I'm fishing below Maggie Pond and start going into the Bourbon and Bacon Festival. And I want to try Colonel Littleton. It is by the Buffalo Trace Distillery. So I walk up there, and it turns out, I guess you need to have tickets or something. So I start talking to this guy because I've got a fly rod, and I'm still soaking wet from earlier in my pants. And I guess I was wearing boots still. And my teeth are starting to chatter, and we start talking about fishing. And he's like, I asked him if he fishes. He's like, yeah. He's like, hey, hold on. Let me go get you something special. So he goes behind the booth, talks to somebody, gets them to pour me a full 2.5 fingers worth of Blanton's bourbon. The one I keep hinting to my wife that I want her to get me for like a Hanukkah, Christmas, birthday present, and I never get. So he brings me that, and I've got nothing to give him, money-wise or anything, so I give him Bacon Fly. I'm like, dude, try this next time you're out fishing. And hopefully that little bit of whiskey is going to help warm me up. So I'm walking around sipping on that, and you walking around an open area like that with drunk, stoned people, they're going to start asking about your fishing gear. So I start talking to all these people, and they're taking my phone and dropping pins in secret spots, and I'm just having tons of laughs. The wife and mother-in-law and Pixie are somewhere else. I ended up meeting a guy who's dressed as a slice of bacon, and he's wasted. Yo, bacon, let me get a selfie. He turns around, I got my camera ready to go. Boom, I got my selfie with bacon. And now I want something a little stronger because I'm freezing, and it's happy hour in the mountains. I'm having my sundowner. So I go up to a booth or something, and she's like, nah, you got... Oh, no, the guy gave me a ticket. I gave the guy a fly. He gave me a ticket after the Blantons. So I wanted to try some Woodford something, and the woman's like, well, you need to have a glass and a bracelet, which you get when you pay for your tickets. I give her the story. I'm like, hey, some dude just traded me a fly for a ticket. I got nothing. She's like, go talk to him at the front. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm not selling you. It's too late. We're done. You're going to have to do something with that ticket. So I ended up just holding on to it. There was one of the local breweries, I think Compass, and if you gave them $5 donation to the Rotary Club, they'll pour you a pint. So I get a pint. Bad idea because I'm freezing now. My teeth are chattering. Probably got icicles hanging from my nose hairs. If I had nose hairs, I keep those trim. And I meet another dude and his girlfriend or wife, and they're like, oh yeah, come by tomorrow morning. There's a big farmer's market, and there's this guy who sells flies right on the river. You talk to him. I'm like, sweet, man, I'll get a podcast out of that, if nothing else. And I'm walking out. I finished my beer. I'm like, it's too cold. I got to go get warm. Take a hot shower. See some dude with a Patagonia trout hat with the trout logo with the Fitzroy Mountains on him. I say, yo, fish hat dude. He turns around. Here's a ticket for your hat, man. And I walk off. I run back up to the condo in altitude and take that hot shower. And then my brother-in-law made some ridiculous dinner from a cookbook. What did they make that night? It was stuffed peppers I think it was the Toro Bravo cookbook that everyone in my family loves. They stuff peppers and all sorts of other things. So we mealed, went to bed, and the plan for Sunday was to wake up and go down to that market. So I go down to that market and I meet the fly shop guys, and you'll hear that podcast interview now. All right, Sunday morning, we're next to Maggie Pond, and you are?
This is Ted Warren.
And this is Brothers Fly Shop?
Brothers Fly Shop. We don't have a physical plant anywhere. We do markets like this, and then we have internet sales.
Okay.
And then I wholesale to stores.
All right. So we're going through, I was asking you about some of your flies that are local to here that I can't find anywhere else. And I'm seeing some. You want to go back through some of those?
Yes, you noticed we have a Griffith gnat in a white, and that's a little unusual. And then we have a high-vis Griffith gnat also. Oh, let's see. We have a variety of tricos, which are real small ones. We have patriots, very colorful flies, and on a bright, sunny day, those are very effective.
It seems the parachute flies are very popular out here.
Yes, and we've got about half dozen different types of parachute flies, parachute hare's ear, parachute BWO, parachute PMD, and then different colors, blue, black, purple, in the parachute style. And then on the caddis flies, we have some foam caddis, so if you've got a little swifter water that tends to dry or wet up your caddis fly, your regular dry fly, then you can use a little foam caddis fly. It's been real effective. And then we have some black caddis, which are not particularly commonly sold in the area, but they can be very effective, particularly at early morning or late in the evening. Oh, let's see. We carry some foam hoppers this time of year in fall, summer. Crickets, hoppers, things are starting to fall off the bushes into the water. So the trout are very opportunistic whenever they can get something like that. We have one called crackleback that's popular in Missouri and Arkansas, but not so popular up here, but it really can be pretty effective. It floats on the water with a lot of hackle, and then as you swing it, then it goes under the water. And a lot of times the trout aren't hitting the surface fly, they're hitting the one that's just in the film, just under the water, maybe an inch or so. So that crackleback is something a little unusual up here, but I fished it.
In blue, haven't seen that before.
Yeah, we have it in blue, red, and chartreuse. A lot of the flies, red is the color of choice. Red kind of is, in the whole animal kingdom, signifies distress or something that's in trouble. So up here in the Rockies, I found little red flies to be very effective, particularly like in the zebra midges. So we carry
a lot of typically zebra midge back east, silver and black. I've never seen lavender.
Yeah, the basic colors are black, red, and olive, and purple. We do that for shops up in Arkansas. Then we have some that are combination red and black. And then we do a copperhead with an olive body. And back there they call it a root beer zebra midge. And then for a shop in Oklahoma, we do a zebra midge, same style, but we put a little piece of flash in there. And sometimes that's really a good trigger.
That's all it needs, that little extra.
Yep. And then one of the things I've learned up in the Rockies is to use small flies, emergers, that you either fish them behind a dry fly, just right in the film, or you can fish them as a trailer behind a beadhead fly underwater. And I've just increased my catch rate at least 40% when I started using some of these smaller emerger styles in sizes 18 to 22. Oh, we'll get the normal typical pheasant tail is probably the number one nymph anywhere in the country. And then princes.
My buddy Justin I was fishing with last couple of days, he said it doesn't matter what you use as long as it's a small pheasant tail.
There you go. If I go someplace I don't know, I'll tie on a pheasant tail, and then on a dropper I'll probably put a very small 2022 red zebra midge and start out like that. And then another one of my favorite flies up here in the Rockies, kind of an emerger style, is a RS2.
Can't go wrong. That's what was doing it for me yesterday.
Grays, black, olive, just experiment a little bit. And then we carry some little bitty black ones called Black Beauties, and then some that are a little flashier called a Rainbow Warrior. They're very effective on sunny days. And then we do emergers that are similar to a Bars emerger, We do them in different colors, so they're very distinctive as a BWO emerger or a PMD emerger. And then we have the traditional brown and gray also. They're learning to fish those little bitty flies. Little bitty bugs will really, really help you catch some fish. Then we have an assortment of scuds and sow bugs, primarily for customers in the Arkansas area, but I've had more people come up this year and tell me that they have similar type bugs in some of the streams up here in Colorado.
How did you get connected to all the Missouri guys and gals?
Well, I grew up in Missouri, and so when I'd go back to see my mother, I'd just call on the fly shops, and there were a few state parks in Missouri that have trout fishing, and so I was familiar with those, and I'd just swing by and introduce myself.
Super.
Then in Arkansas, Mountain Home, Arkansas is a big trout capital, Mountain Home, and so I went up there fishing, and then went into the fly shops and got acquainted, and in fact, they kind of helped get me started in the fly business because there were flies they wanted specially tied. So we do a lot of specialty flies for shops that we don't just sell everywhere, just for the shops. But
I'm not seeing a worm bin. Did you do the worms at all?
Yeah, we've got San Juan worms in different colors. Used to just pretty well be red and pink, but now they're red and pink and brown, and two tones in brown. Some of them with a bead in the middle. Orange, got some orange worms. It's one of the shop's orders. We do a lot of foam flies, and this is hopper season. For the next 2 or 3 weeks is still good. And on the hopper flies, people think they're always too big. But if you really look at the grasshoppers you see running around, they're pretty good size. 2 inches is not oversized at all.
I'm distracted. Over your shoulder is Maggie Pond, and there's trout rising in it right now.
Yeah. My grandson usually comes up in the summer with us, and he'll often go out and fish here on Maggie Pond. And he'll fish a little caddis and then drop below it, usually a little olive zebra midge. Okay. And he'll catch several fish, and we always catch and release and everything.
Let's talk about all the Copper Johns. That's another big one out here.
Yeah, Copper Johns originally started, just with that copper wire wrapped around a beadhead nymph, pretty buggy looking, and then now they've just expanded to a number of colors. The copper and the red are the two most popular colors. And we have them in black and chartreuse, dark green. You have a zebra kind of looking Copper John, and then the blue is a real popular. Blue or purple is a new popular color. And now we've gone to some of them that have little legs on them and look real buggy. Even back in Texas where we come from, those little ones with the legs really attract the bluegill, the sunfish kind of thing. Just a lot of fun to catch.
And then I see vintage flies priced as marked.
Yes, we have a friend back in Texas. We live on Lake Fork, and he has a tackle shop, and he buys a lot of used lures and equipment. And so he called me one day and he says, I've got a bunch of fly fishing lures and that he didn't really know anything about. So I bought a bunch of them from him. And most of these go back to the 50s.
I actually have one of these at home.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's an old one.
I bumped into a guy at a lake one day and he's like, I got half a dozen old flies. Why don't you have them? I'm never going to use them.
I'll be.
They're in my office. Yeah. So what does that one run for?
It's like $25.
Whoa. All right.
And, some of these, they've lost some hair and things through the years, but they're just such unique styles and patterns.
I've never seen a weed guard like that. That's just straight up wire.
Uh-huh. And, some of them are pretty big bodied, but they're made out of balsa wood, so they're pretty light, very, very castable with an 8-weight fly rod. Then we've got some that are designed after the Basserino, kind of a chugger kind of plug. But they made these, and they say on them, trout or Reno. And same way on Lazy Ikes. We've got some Lazy Ikes that actually say trout on them. So, those are pretty unique. And we've had fun selling some of those vintage flies.
Fantastic.
Let's see, we do bass flies, different kinds of streamers and poppers. Little foam flies of different styles for bass. You can see some little bitty frogs that are, maybe ½ inch long here in the foam, very effective fly. Here's a little streamer that looks like a bluegill. And, bass,
well, bluegills.
They like to eat them bluegills. particularly in the spring, the male will guard the nest after the eggs are laid and fertilized, and those bluegill will come up and try to raid a bass's bed to get the fry, to get the eggs. So the male is very aggressive whenever you pull a bluegill-looking fly across a spawning bed.
These little frogs. Who came up with that pattern?
A guy down in the hill country of Texas, and he uses them on the little streams and creeks down there. And I haven't used it so much for bass up here, but very effective for bluegill and Guadalupe bass down in the hill country in Texas. One of the things we're out of that's kind of interesting is we do some frog patterns that are about an inch in diameter and a little over an inch long, a real hairy looking thing. But I brought some up a few years ago, and I thought I might sell a few up here in Colorado, and went into one of the fly shops and they bought all I had. Wow. And what they use them for is to fish for the big brown trout early in the evening. The brown trout are pretty aggressive. They're a nocturnal fish, and boy, they're very territorial. So you throw that frog up by the bank and kind of bloop it, work it back a little bit, and it's very effective on brown trout. So that was a surprising little, success that we had along the way. And then we do some saltwater flies also that can also be used for freshwater, like for bass fishing. Clousers would be the number one thing, and deceivers. But most of the other saltwaters are pretty big, even for bass. And we use those down in the Texas area, the deceivers and the clousers for stripers and hybrids in some of the lakes and rivers where the dams overflow and get down where you can fly fish with them. So we got kind of a little variety of everything, and it's a fun hobby, a business that we've got after we've retired. Get to meet interesting people and go to beautiful places and go fishing.
Absolutely. And then behind you, some books.
Yeah, this is my wife's side of the tent, and she has a bunch of journals, kind of unique titles. One for RVers, one for runners, fishermen, campers. Keep a list of your favorite books. A book for your guest to sign at the house or at the lodge or something that you might have. And then she just picks up books along the way that are fishing related, and we put them out for sale. This year we've just got in some new shirts, the new synthetic material shirts that have great fish pictures on them. And these are done by an artist out of Michigan that we met 3 weeks ago.
Those are all drunk and disorderly.
Yeah, big old streamers and things.
Yeah.
Well, this guy we met at the National Fly Fishing Convention up in Livingston, Montana 3 weeks ago. And so we bought a supply of his new shirts. And they have some that have, like this one has a map of Montana on the back of it, as well as the fish pictures. So we're going to have him make us some for Colorado next year.
Fantastic.
And they're just beautiful.
Yeah, and then some earrings as well.
Yeah, we'd kind of, buy the hardware and then put the flies that we sell and make earrings out of them. And if somebody comes up, a lady, and says, well, my favorite fly is, a red copper john, then we'll whip those out and put a red copper john on the earrings for her. Mm-hmm. And we usually cut the hooks off. It's a little safer that way.
Absolutely. Where can we find you online if somebody wants to order? You have any social media, website?
Yep, we have a website, brothersflies.com. Brothersflies.com.
And that's not to be confused with back home. We have flies by two brothers. They're selling flies to pay for college.
Ah, that's good. It's a good project for them.
All right. Yeah. Well, Ted, thanks so much for your time, and I'll get out of your way so I'm not blocking any customers.
Oh, well, it's been a cool rainy day. It's a little slow, but it looks like things are picking up.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
You bet. You're welcome.
So I'm done with that guy, and it's still early in the morning. I'm going to walk down to Mountain Angler, and I need some dry fly paste because I was dry fly fishing, and now my plan is every day for the rest of the time I'm there at 3 o'clock to throw dry flies. Don't have floating. So I walk down to Mountain Angler. I look around. Always want to buy more than enough to support the fly shops. And it turns out there's nothing there I need. I look through hats and long underwear, gloves, sunglasses. They're trying to sell me a Radiant. I'm like, dude, I would love a Scott Radiant, but it ain't happening. I buy my Loon paste And I walk back up to the spot, and what happened next? I walk back up, and I gotta think about this. I go back through the market, and there's a guy selling pastries, and I text the wife, hey, do you want me to get you a quiche? And she doesn't respond, so I'm like, all right, I'm going back up to the condo. So I go back up to the condo, and I hang out for a bit, chill, maybe eat some breakfast. I think I made an egg ciabatta breakfast casserole that morning. The breakfasts all just run together on the weekend. And then I end up meeting up with the wife and the Pixie, and we're going to go for a walk through town. The wife wants to buy a new Breckenridge-specific hat. So we go up and down Main Street to all the tourist shops, and no hats fit her. But I get a new long-sleeve fleece, because all I really wear mostly is black long-sleeve shirts in the winter. And this is a black long-sleeve layer I can wear over a black long-sleeve shirt. This is Breckenridge. It was like $22. And then I go upstairs to the Space Cowboy, and I get a new ice cream cone dead sticker for my car. And we go over to the dredge, and lo and behold, I find out that there are trout in that spot you can feed dog food to. They're 30-inch fish in the dredge hole. Just massive. So from there, we just piss around the afternoon. We walk back up. I decide to go get my rod. I'm going to go, now it's 2:30, 3 o'clock. I'm going to go fish dry flies. So I'm getting ready to set up my gear, and a thunderstorm blows over. And it hails. And when I mean it hails, I mean we got like inches of hail in a thunderstorm. I'm like, well, I can sit around here and do nothing. There's like 6 people in the condo, plus the dog. I'm going to go try fishing anyway. So I get my rod and reel, and I sit on the porch, and I rig up. Last time was bacon and worms. So now I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got goop all over. I think I did a Royal Adams with a dropper of an RS2 or a parachute. I honestly went through every dry fly in my Wheatley box to pick out all the small parachutes. So I got it rigged up, and I'm waiting for the storm, and I'll put the storm up on YouTube because it was nuts. I think they got like 2 feet of hail in the springs. Finally get down to the bridge, and it's blown out. That water is rushing through. So I figure it's a small stream. I'm going to fish streamers and worms until the water clears. And as I'm fishing, it's definitely clearing up, but nothing's rising. Maybe 2 fish. So I'm throwing bacon and worms, and I start hooking fish. I ended up hooking a pretty big brown. Probably from my cork up to, like 11, 12-inch brown out of a small stream. So I'm pretty excited. And then I take off the worm because it's not really working that well. And I put on the Snowhite Damsel. And now I start catching fish. So browns everywhere. The water's starting to drop. They're picking off the damsels. I want to do some dry fly fishing. It's not happening. So I decided to take a long walk way downriver. I figure some fish in some of the bigger holes I've known from the past would be feeding on whatever is coming down through the fast water. So I start walking down that way, and I bump into the wife and my kid at Quandra Grill. They're walking jazzy. So I meet up with the wife, have a beer for happy hour, take some pictures of low light post-storm, and then I move downstream, going for a long walk. After several minutes, I get to my spot, and I start fishing, and I'm not telling you where I was, but the smallest fish, I couldn't hook anything. The water was too fast, the water was too brown, and too turbulent. I always see everything at this last second. The smallest fish I lost was probably 16. The largest fish I lost was pushing 30 inches. Now, I can honestly tell you, I've been humbled by losing a 30-inch trout on a 4-weight. Not a steelhead, but like a trout in a stream that was stocked at some point and just got massive. And I'm fishing along these rocks in this, it's a chute. It's a pure chute. That's all I can explain it. Loaded up with split shot. And the thing comes out of nowhere and starts pecking at my fly. And I'm bouncing along the rocks. And it's like, boom, 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 boom. And I'm setting the hook and slashing and nothing. And all these people start gathering around me to cheer me on, and I get nothing. So I'm like, I'm done. I've had my happy hour. There's nothing rising on dry flies. It's cold because the front came through. I'm going back to the condo for dinner. We're having leftover peppers on Sunday night, stuffed peppers. And there was other things. There was some like salad with bacon and green goddess dressing the night before, so we're going to have that too. And as I'm walking up, all that hail had come down a gutter on the south end of town and it started kind of melting. So I made a giant snowball for my daughter and brought it back for her to throw off the balcony. And I go to bed on the couch again. And now Jazzy has been locked in the kitchen, so I get a decent night's sleep. I was worried my back was going to be shot, but it wasn't. My plan for Monday, this is my Monday plan. Get up. We're going to look for this Breckenridge fairy forest that we've been hearing about. I'm going to go to Daylight Donuts, eat a huge breakfast. I'm going to fish plunge pools the entire way down the mountain towards Frisco. I got all day to fish. Tom couldn't make it up. Justin's working. And I'm going to go catch some fish. That is the plan. And my mother-in-law says, "Boy, why are you going to breakfast? I'll get you Oscar Mayer hot dog from fridge. I put on George Foreman. It'll be better than anything you can get in a restaurant." And I gave her this look like, yeah, that's not happening. So we get in the car, and nobody knows where the Breckenridge Fairy Forest is. It's not on any maps. The wife's friend, who has a place in Breckenridge on the weekends, told us where it was. My wife, remember, she works in GPS. You think she'd have her friend drop her a pin on Google Maps or give us GPS coordinates or something. My wife will tell you it's not that kind of GPS I use. I'm like, well, it's still GPS. It would have different initials if you use something different. So we're going up and down the mountain, and we can't find this fairy forest. I'm just getting pissed because I want to eat breakfast. I want to fish. I don't want to waste my day going through neighborhoods with my father-in-law driving 10 miles an hour, with my wife and him arguing. So I said, you know what? Just drop me off. I'm going to breakfast. So I get down to Daylight. I get in line. I get myself, you ready for this? Hashtag greasy bastard, as Justin would say. Biscuits and sausage gravy, a mound of hash browns the size of Jazzy, bacon, and ice water. And I sit there and I'm checking. My morning routine is I check the weather, I check the news, I check Twitter, then Facebook. So I'm going through those. And the only table that was open was a 6-seater. So some random dude who smelled like a skunk sharted on him because he was obviously pretty stoned. Sits down and we sit together and eat breakfast. Don't really talk. We're both kind of on our phones. I finish up, take my bacon, and I walk out the back door, which is on the Blue River. If you've never been to Daylight Donuts, I mean, we need something like that up here in Fairfax where I live. We have one joint called First Watch, but it's like a chain breakfast joint. There's nowhere just to go in the morning to get a real hearty breakfast. So I got this belly full. I got one bottle of water on me. I got all my flies. I'm rigged up. I got my goop. And I start walking down. So my plan is plunge pools. The way that the Blue River is designed in Breckenridge is it goes down in elevation, and every certain amount of feet, you have a man-made structure of placed rocks which force the water into a waterfall, and then a drop of like 2 to 3 feet. A plunge pool, a run, a drop. And this goes on for maybe 4 miles. I've got the whole day. It's now, I don't know, 10-something in the morning. And I'm fishing plunge pools, and that's my plan, is big streamers weighted with a dropper, plunge pools. I want the fish that get the food that first comes down. This is deep water, and fish grow to fit their surroundings. That's my plan. Big fish in deep holes. A lot of split shot, 4-weight. I'm going to get a multi-piece stiff 5-weight for next time I travel. I lose one brown down by the recreation center, and I keep moving, and I'm just passing people in the middle of the river where the fish are, chest waders up, you know, they might be knee to ankle deep, and they're fishing midges. Itty bitty stuff. Little itty bitty midges. on sites like 7X tippet. And I'm throwing bacon, double bacon that are weighted, 4X long hooks, 8-pound Berkeley Vanish. It's like as thick as negative 5X. 0X is thick, this stuff is thicker. And I'm moving fish, nothing big, I'm not hooking anything. And I pass a guy guiding to like a kid and his dad, and they're standing in the middle, and they're just nymphing this run. And they're not doing jack. And I move down below them, fishing plunge pools again. I'm a mile in now, and I haven't landed anything but one brown. The brown was pretty big. I've got pictures of him with the bacon fly in his maw. So I move downstream, and I throw behind. So plunge pool, fast riffle, slow water. And I'm trying to, if I can describe it to you, take your hands, clap. Open the tops of your hands, leave the palms together at your wrist. You've got a V shape there. Now, imagine that's where the water's been flowing for how long, and it's carved out this trough. And that trough is white because algae hasn't settled there like the sides of the river because it's constant flow of water. And I drag my fly through there for shits and giggles, and all of a sudden, my rod stops and jerks forward, and I set the hook, and I'm into about a 20 to 22 inch rainbow with no net and no waders on a 4-weight on the bacon fly. And I get this thing to my hand, I can't grab it. My hands don't fit around it. I think the rod's like in my armpit, and I'm trying to grab this with two hands. I'm trying to drag it up on shore. This fish is freaking huge. And yesterday I caught a big fish, twice the size of this thing. Knew I probably never would have landed that. I can't land this thing. And there's all sorts of willows to my left. I can't move down. I can't really move to the right. I'm stuck in a spot. I get him right up, and he throws the fly. I'm like, crap. So I take a step back. I'm like, all right. Got to do the scientific method, my hypothesis, big fish. If I catch one again, what is my plan? How am I going to work things out? I got no idea. So I rest the hole for a couple minutes, and I throw bacon in there with a damsel dropper again. The first fish, I think I'm looking at my picture now, I had on a jumbo wormy, because I can't see the bacon fly in there, and the rainbow was blended in, but I can see the worm. So I pop off the worm, and I put on a damsel. I don't know why. This might not be in order. I'm trying to remember these things from dehydration and altitude from a couple days ago. I couldn't do any recording back at the condo because there's nowhere to do it. I hook into another one. This one's probably, I'm going to say definitely 22 inches long, without a doubt. This thing is enormous. And I've hooked 2 of these fish in 5 minutes, and no one else up and down the stream midging has caught jack squat. I got my little pat on the shoulder. So I get this fish in, and you can't grab their mouth like a bass. This thing has got fangs on it. I mean, massive, massive teeth. And I try to grab him. He's so slippery. My hands are wet. I can't do anything. The dropper now is wrapped around it and is stuck just above its adipose fin, and the fish breaks me off. I think I just put my rod against the side and just sit down in humiliation. If you're on the Blue River, you catch a 22-inch rainbow in the same spot as that 18 to 20 to 22, and if you find a fish with a chartreuse damsel nymph in the back, you know what fish I'm talking about. The thing was, it probably as thick as my calf. I'm not a big guy, but the thing was big. It was like a Nerf football. There was no way I was going to land that thing without a net. So then I move downstream, and I see the same type of water, and I throw the fly in there, I strip, and I hook into another monster rainbow. This thing's about 20 to 22 inches. So now this is 3 fish in the 20-inch range in probably 6 casts. I am having an epic day. I go on trips, I never really expect to catch anything. I'm just glad to be out, and I'm getting everything I wanted right now. So I photographed this thing in a puddle, and it's next to my rod. It goes from the reel up to the first stripping guard. Its head is bigger than my CFO reel, and it's got the bacon fly in its mouth, and it's just beautifully speckled, beautiful, perfect rainbow. And then this woman just happens to walk by, and I get her to take my picture, and I've got a huge smile. I can't put either of my hand around the fish, so I'm gripping it. I let it go. I sit down, and a guy I had bumped into the day before below Maggie Pond, I gave him a chartreuse worm to use. He and his dad come along, and they caught a couple little ones. They're like, how'd you do? And I'm like, how did I do? I bust out my phone, and they're pretty surprised that fish that big are in there because they haven't seen anything. I explained to them how I'm fishing that trough and to look for the type of water I'm fishing and the method I'm using. I give him some bacon flies. I give him my card. Brandon, is that your name? If it is, give me a shout. If you're listening to this, I'll get you some more bacon flies. And they go upstream, I go downstream, and I'm kind of done. I'm like, dude, I caught 3 fish in the 20-inch range. When was the last time that happened? So I'm just having fun now, and I decide it's Monday, it's around 1:30. I need to go to Fatty's. Do you remember my podcast on places to eat when you go fly fishing? Well, Fatty's was top of the list for Monday's chicken fried steak lunch. So I break down my rod, and I start walking upstream. I cross over a bridge, and I talk to some guy, and he's like, man, it sucks today. And as I'm walking back up, I'm passing the same people that were in the same spots hours ago. I probably did 2 miles of walking downstream. I passed the same people going up in those same spots, nymphing their same rigs. Just absolutely deplorable. I don't get it. So I walk back up, past the spot where I caught my first fish. That's where I bump into the guy, and I talk to him. He's like, it sucks today. We're not catching jack. I'm like, what are you using? And he shows me these, like, size 20 midges. I'm like, dude, they are eating meat today. And he's like, really? I'm like, show my picture on my phone. He's like, all right, they're eating meat today. You got that right. So I say goodbye to him, show my pictures, give him some spots to fish, and I start moving up. Now I'm on the other side of the river. I want to go back and pull a bacon fly from above a bridge where I lost one in the morning, because now I'm down to 4 bacon flies, maybe 2 articulated, 2 non-articulated. And remember, it doesn't matter what streamer you fish as long as it's the bacon fly. I only fish 1 streamer for trout, and there's a reason, because it works. I don't need to fish any of your flies because mine has had 16 years worth of R&D on the East, West Coast, and Rocky Mountains that I don't know what else I can do to it, but it works. The tutorials are all on YouTube. All right. So I'm walking up, and I see a nice spot. I'm like, all right, there's got to be a fish in there. I throw my streamer in. Freaking 18-inch rainbow. Again, I'm over a cliff. I try to get this fish in. I try to get it. I probably should have used my hat at this point to land a fish. Another 8. I mean, this thing is as long as, it goes past my fingertips, past my elbow if you were going to measure it. I get it into hand. I'm going to land it. He throws the hook. I'm like, you know what? I don't care at this point. I've landed some big fish. I start walking upstream. You know what I find? I find a creek that dumps into the Blue River. I'm not telling you where this is. This is going to be my new spot. There is a salmon-sized trout in there. There's about 8 to 10 trout in the 18-inch range, a couple 7 to 10s. And there's one in there that's probably eating everything else. The water's fast. It's probably 6 feet deep. Do the wormy now behind my bacon. I throw it upstream, mend, let it sink down and start stripping it in. Boom, I catch another rainbow. This one, probably 16 inches long, and I was able to land it. I got a picture of it, and I can see this one goes, wow. So I'm holding it in my hand. Everything from the dorsal fin down is, so I'm holding it in my left hand. From my thumb down to the tail, probably 7, 8, and then the other one, the nose is up to my forearm. So like a big fish. And now I'm like, all right, I got to hoof it up to fatties because I need my chicken fried steak. So I break down my rod. I think I cut the fly off. I rubber band it all together. Somebody noticed that I had a purple rubber band on in one of the pictures. That was because I was using a purple rubber band to hold my rod together walking around town. And instead of going under, there's a roundabout by the grocery store. Instead of going under, I decided to go over. And I'm crossing traffic, and a car stops in front of me. It's like a black, what did Holt used to drive? Subaru Outback. Some kind of Subaru. Guy rolls down his window. He looks like the gambler dude from, what was that show? Where they go into like storage spaces, Storage Wars. Look just like that guy. And he says, hey, you fly fish? I'm like, yeah, man. He goes, I'll sell you a rod. And I'm like, dude, I got enough rods. He goes, I got a green bamboo rod, $20. I'm like, what the hell's a green bamboo to myself? I'm like, all right, what do I got to lose? He rolls down his back window. Green rod. He goes, take a look at it. I pull it out. Orvis T3 2-piece 5-weight. Pretty good condition, dirty cork. Ross reel on it. And I'm like, I don't want to ask if it's stolen. He's just like, dude, I'll just sell it to you. I got to get down into Frisco in a hurry. You want it or not? And I was like, deal. And I'm thinking, all right, I already was someone tried to sell me a $10 bike and a $3 backpack. This thing's probably hot too, but I figure at least if I can sell it, I can advertise it like I am now. Don't be that guy that claims it's yours and it really isn't. I said, what about the reel and line? He goes, I don't know, just take it. So for $20, get this. Not only this trip have I caught 30-inch fish on midges, I am just bought $400 rod, $250 reel, and a Rio Gold line for $20. Sit back and digest that. I figure for $20, I can fit another client in a normal day now, say for shad or boat or walk and wade fishing. So, boom. I can't write that off because I don't get a receipt. But I'm all giggly, and I walk up to Fatty's. And I got my 2 rods. I sit them on the bar next to me. I sit down. She's like, what can I get you? I said, I'll take a chicken fried steak, no squash, please. And she looks at me like, huh? And I'm like, it's Monday. Chicken fried steak special. She's like, yeah, we don't have that today. I'm like, what do you mean? I've been waiting 5 years to eat this damn chicken fried steak. I've been waiting this entire trip since it was planned to eat this chicken fried steak. I got up this morning and wanted me some damn chicken fried steak and squash. It is one of my without squash, one of my favorite meals anywhere. Oh, knocked over the dat. She's like, yeah, we don't have that. So I'm like, all right, I can get the French dip. That's my go-to, not on Mondays. And I noticed they don't have Odell's on tap. I'm like, all right, can I get an ice water? I'll look at the menu. And I'm looking, I'm like, you know what? Fatty's ain't going to do it for me today. So I walk out, and as I'm walking out, this guy goes, you can't catch anything in Fatty's. And I said, well, man, I tried to catch myself some chicken fried steak. It didn't work. So I'm going to go to Burke and Riley's. You know, that is my tempura battered chicken tender deep fried joint next to the condo. So I walk on Ridge Street, and I haven't been on Ridge in a while. So I'm looking at the new restaurants, looking at the old ones, people watching, enjoying the weather. Beautiful day. And I've really got my schwitz on now because I've now walked 6 miles so far, and the last 3 have been all uphill. And I'm going to Burke and Riley's, and I'm like, hey, you still got the tempura chicken fingers? She's like, yep. I'm like, I'll take those and a pint of Guinness, please. Waffle fries? Yes, ma'am. With the ranch dressing. And I sit down, I start going through Craigslist, start Googling. These rods, the last T3 I bought was 2002 or 2003. Not a new rod. The guy did mention he found it in Buena Vista. He's been holding on to it for years. I think he was just going to go sell it in town. There's a bunch of used sporting goods stores. He got to me first. I cannot find anywhere online of a recently stolen rod and reel for Colorado. So I'm like, sweet, I got my own rod and reel. I eat half of my chicken fingers and waffle fries. I'm full. The guy next to me seems to have recognized me from somewhere in fly fishing. So we start talking, and he orders his food. He and his wife eat. I take off back to the condo. I stopped somewhere to buy something. Maybe that was the next day. All right, so yeah, I go back to the condo, and my daughter eats the chicken finger, leftovers, and fries. I charge my phone, do some social media. I'm posting my big fish pictures. I am on cloud 9 at 10,000 feet above sea level while I'm out of breath. Everyone's like, all right, let's go for a walk. And I'm like, let's take the Pixie fishing. She needs to go do some dry fly fishing. So I drop off my new rod, and we walk down to go do some dry fly fishing. And sure enough, there's a jabroni, which was the trip word while we were on the reservoir. Jabroni standing in the hole. I am pissed off. It's my father-in-law, the wife, and me, and we are trying to introduce a 5-year-old to dry fly fishing. He's fishing one side of the river, kind of down. I'm like, you know what? Let's cross over. We'll fish above this guy on this side of the river. And it didn't take too long for me to get a fat rainbow on the bacon fly. And we net it. We take pictures. My father-in-law was very excited. Of course, he wanted to eat the damn thing. I said, Yuri, you're not allowed to eat these fish. And away we went. So, where do I go from there? We streamer fished, we dry fly fished, nothing. I think we just ended up going back home after Maggie Pond and getting a good night's sleep. Now, at this point, we're no longer at the condo. We moved to get some space. My parents are Hilton Honors people, so they got us a room at a lodge that was extremely posh. 3-bedroom, there's hot tubs, there's a lounge, the fireplace goes on with the light switch. So we sit there and we watch some tennis, and then we're going to go meet everyone for dinner. But first, my wife wants to go get a margarita down at her favorite joint in town, Casa. What does she eat at? I'd ask her. Casa Bonita, Casa Bubba Hubba, Mi Casa. That's her joint. So we have some chips there, and she orders wings, because this is where she goes après ski. So she loves the wings, she loves the margs. We go up to the house, we eat dinner, and we get dropped off at the condo, lodge I should say. Hot tub it, it's cold. Soak those bones. I get up in the morning, I sleep in a bit. It turns out when I went to rinse my mouth out of the sink, there were no cups, I bent my head down, I popped my neck. So for the rest of the trip, I'm unable to turn my head really left or right at all. It sucked. It was quite painful. I think that's from sleeping on the sofa too long. So I sleep in a bit. My plan today is to not fish plunge pools. I'm going to go look for the same water I found those fish in yesterday. Breakfast, I don't even think I ate anything. So I start walking down, and I'm not fishing plunge pools today. I'm fishing the stretches. Remember yesterday on Monday, how every hole had some dude in it, nymphing, just standing there all day? There was no one else on the river. I fished as far down and as far up the day on Tuesday as I had on Monday. It was awesome. I get back down, and I'm not catching anything in those holes where the slots are and it's carved out. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fish some plunge pools. I throw my streamer in one plunge pool, and I miss a whopper. Freaking whopper. So I go downstream and come back to that one. I fish another plunge pool. A couple minutes later, this is above where I caught those 3 fish on Monday. And I hook into an 18-inch rainbow. And he takes me from the plunge pool through the riffles and runs into the stretch before the next. And I end up having to go in the water and pull this fish around. And I finally get him. He is a monster, big fatty guy, rainbow, on the bacon fly. And I'm telling you, that's the only fly you need to fish for trout if a streamer. Imagine your woolly bugger looks like What's the brother from Napoleon Dynamite? Let's see. Your woolly bugger, your streamer looks like Kip. Mine looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones. I go back up now. I'm like, all right, I caught a big one here. I'm going to go up. I throw the bacon streamer in, and I hook that bigger fish, and I land him too. He's another 18 to 22 incher. I land him, and I lose him before I can get a picture. And he again took me downstream. The one before that, I did get on film because it was a long fight, and I filmed him in the water as I resuscitated him. And then I went back and got the bigger fish, which I didn't get a picture of. And then I go back upstream to... I'm like, I'm done. I'm done fishing. I've had my fun. I go back upstream to where that confluence was, and I pull out, I don't know, maybe... What did I pull out of there? It's awful that my memory is fading with my age. I pull it out like a small fish from that hole, and then just walk back up to the condo and met up with everybody, and they wanted to go outside for another walk, like yesterday. So the wife and I take the daughter down to Maggie Pond, and there are fish rising again. Go, Jones. Get outside. So we go down to Quandary, and we're with my father-in-law again, and we catch a couple fish down at the hole, and then we go below Quandary, and I'm fishing, I don't know, whatever dry fly rig, some bushy wolf pattern with a little emerger or parachute, and I'm picking off like 7-inch rainbows and browns left and right. And my father-in-law decides he wants to get a picture with one, so we take pictures with Yuri so he can show people, I guess, that he caught trout on a fly rod even though he didn't. And Yuri takes off back to the condo. The wife, the Pixie, and I go to Quandary Grill, and that's where I used to eat nightly back when I lived in town. Bacon cheeseburger, 1 pint, 1 club soda, fries. That was good to go. So the wife and I have a beer with our kid on the back patio, and it's absolutely stunning. Double rainbow forms over town, so we do a big photo shoot with that. And from there, my brother-in-law is going to buy us dinner at the Flip Side, which is, I guess, a chain of burger joints. And we sit downstairs, we get cocktails, and you get your burger, and instead of getting fries with it, you get like a side of a big plate. So I get myself a huge plate of truffle fries with bacon cheeseburger in the works, and it's the perfect way to cap off an epic 2 days of catching big fish. Great vacation, not looking forward to getting up at 4 in the morning and going back, especially that I can't really turn my head. So I'm not looking forward to like plane rides and looking around airports and car rides and everything else. But after dinner, we go back up to the lodge, and I repack everything, and I jump in the hot tub to soak my neck. And people were blowing up fireworks on the mountain across from us. And it honestly looked like the firefight from the rooftop scene in Die Hard. It looked like people were shooting each other from one side of the mountain to the other, but it was just fireworks. Full belly, digesting in the hot tub, getting my neck worked on. And I was a little snory that night, so I had to sleep on the sofa. But I wasn't complaining. I stayed up, watched a little bit of Netflix. One night, I stayed up and watched American Werewolf in London, which I don't think I've seen since I was a kid. It was on Netflix or Amazon, and our buddy's Netflix account expired, so we no longer have Netflix. I had to enjoy the opportunity while I could. Yeah, so we get up in the morning, and we've got the car, so we drive to wake up the Pixie at the in-laws, and we get her in the car and say goodbye to the mother-in-law, who's up, getting her up now. And we make the drive to Denver, and there's constellations everywhere. It's the first time she's really seen stars like that. And we get home. I wanted to sleep the whole flight because I was tired. I swear every time I fell asleep, that kid would kick me or elbow me or something. We were on Southwest. I could easily have just moved seats somewhere else, but I didn't want to move. My neck hurt. Uneventful flight home. It was 2 flights is what it took us to do. And we're back here. That's the podcast. Hope you all enjoyed this crazy road trip to Colorado. I thought it would be simple, not a whole lot of fish, but it turned out to be pretty crazy. Bucket list things were marked off, and what can I say? It was a great time. We're definitely looking forward to moving out there eventually. Colorado isn't just it's like a state of mind. You walk around, you can't tell a Monday from a Saturday from a Wednesday out there. Everyone is so nice and chill. Yeah, it's just great. The beer's great. The food's great. Everyone's got big dogs. It's just fun. Yeah. So if you have a significant other, you may have mentioned it on Instagram, and you're trying to get her to move out there, you need to do it. I know the population's booming out there, but get out there while you can. They're supposed to have an epic winter of snow in Breckenridge. Yeah, that's about it. My wife put brewery stickers all over her car. School started. The pool closed. Summer's officially over. Summer's over. That was the last hurrah of the road trips. All right, next up, we got the Salmon River trip coming up soon. We got some friends we're going to interview, and I'm still trying to figure out how to do the Skype podcasting. I got time now, so if you need to book a trip with me, I am free weekdays now from 9 o'clock till 2:30. Give me a call, and Jason did a bang-up job putting this all together because there's lots of just random different files. So, yeah. That's about it. I'm going to go to sleep. All right. I want to give shout-outs to Justin and to Tom for all the help out there, and for my in-laws for letting us crash at their place. And keep fishing, people. That's all I got to say. No regrets when fly fishing, and fish the bacon fly.
Thank you for joining us for the Fly Fishing Consultant Podcast. For more information or to contact Rob, please go to www.robsnowhite.com.